Rebuilding the Immortal Cultivation family. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 501, War Begins. The day after Li Chengsheng finished spreading the news and returned to Banyan Island, the demon cultivators gathered dozens of giant and tens of thousands of low-level cultivators, and divided into 4 groups to march towards Lingayan sect. Hundreds of spirit ships took off, and the scale was so large that it blocked the sunlight for several miles. Wherever they passed, the clouds that filled the sky were washed away, revealing the original color of the sky. The majestic and terrifying momentum made all the spirits curl up, and even had to breathe carefully, for fear of attracting their attention. At this time, Lingayan sect was still running around to prove the rumor that was coming in with great momentum and sounded very real, and at the same time, they also collected some precious spiritual objects. If the news was false, then everyone would be happy, but if the news was true, they could just run away. As for those low-level disciples and middle-level deacons, whether they could survive depended on their own abilities. Damn, that rumor turned out to be true. Looking at the large fleet in front of him, this cultivator who was only at the foundation building stage was trembling all over. But for the sake of the sect, he actually planned to pass the message back to buy some time for his fellow disciples and elders, and maybe because of this little time, a few lives could be saved. Unfortunately, he had already been targeted by a giant and demon cultivator. Just as he was about to activate the communication talisman, he saw black light coming towards him, so fast that he could only watch his palm being swallowed. If I wasn't worried about destroying the holy sect's major events, how could I spare your life? The demon cultivator said with some dissatisfaction. Originally thought that he could enjoy the body of a cultivator, but in the end he could only stop him and could not kill him. However, he was not the only cultivator sent by Lingayan sect to investigate the situation. The demon cultivators were indeed brutal, but it was inevitable that there would be fish that slipped through the net. So when the demon cultivators entered the territory of Lingayan sect, they received the news. What should we do now? There are demon cultivators in all 4 directions, and their strength is not bad. It is difficult to break through and escape in a short time, but as time goes on, the demon cultivators in other places will all surround us, and it will still be a dead end. Now, we can only summon all the disciples back to the mountain gate, gather all our strength, and fight against the demon cultivators to the death, so that we have a chance to survive, the head of the sect said with a gloomy face, but he seemed to have no confidence. Because the mountain protection formation of Lingayan sect is only a 3rd level formation, the defense is good, but it can't withstand the terrifying attack of hundreds of giant and demon cultivators. At this time, his heart was full of regret. If he had known earlier, he should have believed the rumor and fled Lingayan sect as soon as possible. He could also save his life and didn't have to be so uneasy and full of fear for his own safety like now. Head, maybe we can ask the Li family in Shanli Mountain for help. They should agree to help, right? After all, if King Shan's Tower really became the territory of demon cultivators, it would also be a big threat to the 2 families. But if there is no benefit, why would they risk sacrificing many people and agree to this? As long as the conditions offered by the Li family are not excessive, we will agree to all of them. Now it is more important to solve the crisis of the sect and the lives of tens of thousands of disciples. Those material possessions will always have a chance to be obtained in the future. Although the other elders were reluctant, they were not unable to distinguish the priorities of things. 7th elder is proficient in the art of concealing breath and invisibility. I will ask you to complete this matter, the head of the sect continued to instruct. Go to the Li family first. If the Li family is unwilling, then go to the Shanli mountain. The 7th elder had no objection. He was very confident in his God-given magical powers, but he was not sure about the conditions mentioned by the head of the sect. He asked many times to avoid being a scapegoat in the future. In the end, he got a sentence: as long as the inheritance of the sect and the lives of the disciples can be preserved, anything can be agreed. Only then did he leave with satisfaction. Gulu, when the 7th elder came to the edge of the mountain protection formation, he could already see the huge fleet of the demon cultivators from afar. Even if they were dozens of miles away, he could still feel the terrifying momentum and couldn't help swallowing his saliva. But this is only 1/4 of the demon cultivators' army. 7th elder, I hope you can move faster. Facing such a large number of demon cultivators, the sect may not be able to hold out for long. the head of the sect said in a very solemn voice. In addition, he was also reminding him not to run away directly. Please rest assured, the seventh elder responded in a deep voice. The formation opened a small hole, and the seventh elder walked out of the mountain gate, carefully covering himself, and walked towards the distance along some hidden paths. It took the demon cultivators less than a quarter of an hour to cross a distance of dozens of miles. Kill! As soon as the demon cultivators arrived, they shouted loudly. For a moment, the sky and the earth seemed to be covered with a layer of gray fog, which was the evil spirit condensed into substance. The cultivators, who were already in low morale, are now even more unbearable. They clearly occupy the advantage of the terrain, but they did not seize the opportunity to launch an attack first, and were forced to approach the mountain gate by the demon cultivators. Countless demon cultivators frantically attacked the formation below, and the endless spells fell like a continuous drizzle, and the formation was shining. This seemingly precarious situation made all the cultivators sober up and hurriedly launched a counterattack. Various colors of spiritual light shot up into the sky and collided with the attacks of the demon cultivators in the air. Some of them canceled each other out, while others were shattered and continued to attack the opponent. From a third party, it was like a gorgeous fireworks display, beautiful but also full of danger. Inside Lingayen Mountain. Get ready to connect the formation to the spiritual vein. The formation elder was sweating profusely, but he forced himself to stay calm. While instructing other formation masters, he presided over the formation himself. The formation consumes too much? If it is filled with spiritual stones, I am afraid that the speed of placing spiritual stones will not be able to keep up with the speed of consumption. If the spiritual vein is connected, there is no need to worry about this problem, and some manpower can be freed up. But this approach has a big disadvantage. If the spiritual energy is extracted excessively, it will cause the spiritual vein to drop in grade. At that time, if you want to upgrade the spiritual vein again, the cost will be even greater. But in this situation, how can Lingayen sect care so much? If the mountain protection formation is broken by the demon cultivators, then who knows how many of them will survive in the end? Are we not going to take action yet? A voice suddenly rang out from a spirit ship full of golden elixirs on the demon cultivator side. They are the elite of this operation. Except for those low-level demon cultivators, the rest who are taking action now are puppets controlled by their magic. The Lingayen sect has been able to stand for 1,000 years, so it must have a lot of foundation. If we show up at this time, they will definitely target us, another demon cultivator said slowly. Now we just need to wear them down little by little and make them fall into despair. Chapter 502 Background. Demon cultivators have always valued strength over Taoism, and their character cultivation varies, and most of them are relatively poor. Perhaps only the true disciples and elites of those big forces, or the demon cultivators who are determined to reach a higher level, will pay attention to character. Among the group of giant and demon cultivators sent out, there is no such person. They are fierce in appearance but weak in courage, good at planning but indecisive, cherish their bodies when doing big things, and forget their lives when they see small profits. Let them take risks? Unless it is a last resort, it is absolutely impossible. But even so, the demon cultivators still brought great pressure to the people of Lingayen sect. There are actually quite a few disciples in Lingayen sect, but a large part of them are in other places, and the demon cultivators came too fast, and they had no time to get back. In addition, they missed the opportunity at the beginning and were approached step by step by the demon cultivators, which completely fell into a disadvantage. Moreover, as time goes by, the mana of those low-level disciples is about to be exhausted, and the situation is becoming more and more unfavorable to Lingayen sect. The demon cultivators are coming, don't panic, disciples. As long as you hold on for a while, the Yuanying's engine will come to rescue you. The voice of the head of the sect rang out over Lingayen Mountain. Once this engine arrives, it will be a great opportunity for you to subdue demons and obtain many spiritual objects. In this battle, not only can you obtain the spiritual objects of the demon cultivators you kill, but the sect will also give you generous rewards. As soon as these words came out, it was obvious that the morale of the crowd had risen a lot. Some disciples who were arranged by the head of the sect in advance shouted at the top of their lungs, "Defend the sect to the death and kill the demon cultivators, fighting elder, I'll trouble you next." The head of the sect saluted a cultivator who looked frail, with respect in his eyes. Many large forces with a long history have specially set up one or several fighting elders. They usually don't show up, and no one knows their existence. They just need to concentrate on practicing. However, once their family encounters serious danger, they will stand up and be responsible for repelling the enemy and protecting the sect family behind them. In fact, the Li family also set up a fighting elder, that is Li Zhirui. However, it has never been announced to the public. Only Li Zhirui, Li Shiking and other Jindan, as well as the clan leader and several important elders know about it. And Lingayan sect now has a total of 5 fighting elders. The one sent now is called Liang Huanan, a sword cultivator in the late Jindan period. My duty is here. The head of the sect is too kind. Liang Huanan shook his head, and the next moment he was like an arrow from a string, flying directly out of the mountain protection formation. Facing the hundreds of demon cultivators in front of him, Liang Huanan's expression did not change at all. He only saw his right hand grasped out of thin air, and his life sword suddenly appeared. He gently pressed forward, and a condensed and tangled shocking sword intent rushed towards the demon cultivators. Wherever the sword intent passed, no one could stop it, and all fell. Corpses fell on the ground like rain, blood and flesh flew everywhere. And they were shattered, forming a horrifying picture. Oh. When the disciples of Lingayan sect saw this scene, they felt their blood boiling. They shouted loudly to vent their excitement. The sound was so loud that it could be heard more than 10 miles away, which in turn overwhelmed the momentum of the demon cultivators. Is this man only half a step away from the nascent soul? The group of demon cultivators naturally felt the pressure brought by Liang Huanan, and they looked at each other in silence for a while. No one was willing to fight with this terrifying sword cultivator, because they had a clear understanding of their own strength and knew that they were definitely not his opponent. Losing is not just a simple loss of face, but also a possibility of losing life. Then let's go together. Anyway, they didn't care about their face. What would it matter if they were scolded as shameless? Survival is the most important thing. Okay, everyone agreed happily, and flew out of the spirit ship one by one and headed straight for Liang Huanan. Liang Huanan looked at the many demon cultivators who surrounded him, and didn't say anything, but that sneer contained a lot. Let me see how strong you are. As soon as he finished speaking, the spirit sword in his hand also chopped down. In an instant, a sword light filled with ferocity and murderous aura rose into the sky, and slashed down towards the several demon cultivators in front of him with unstoppable force. Is this really the power that a giant cultivator can exert? The demon cultivators who faced the sword light had the deepest understanding. At that moment, they seemed to have seen the scene of the underworld. In order to save their lives, everyone took out their own life-saving methods. The magic weapon that one of them took out was the most eye-catching. It was a dark black human skull. The reason why it was special was that it was made from the head of a Yuanying. However, even if it was blocked, there was an extra crack on the skull. But the other demon cultivators were not as lucky as him. 2 of them fell under Liang Huanan's move, and several others were injured. If you don't show your true ability, do you want to take me to the underground? Everyone felt Liang Huanan's fear again, and dared not be careless. In order to get rid of him, they began to join forces to deal with him. Various magic spells were cast one after another, and many killing moves were hidden in them. But the most important thing is that magic spells are known for their weirdness and change ability. A spell that looks ordinary may be a fatal killing move. Liang Huanan's strength is indeed very strong, but he is only one person after all. Facing dozens of magic cultivators who unite and cooperate with each other, he is not an opponent at all. He soon fell into disadvantage and fell into danger. Get out. Liang Huanan is not stupid. He knows that he can't go on like this, and his injuries are getting more and more, so he plans to retreat and run with his sword. Want to leave now? It's too late. How could the magic cultivators let such a powerful sword cultivator leave? Various spells were cast together, trying to keep Liang Huanan. But who would have thought that Liang Huanan suddenly stopped? This is a sword that I have cultivated for hundreds of years, and I have condensed all my efforts. Please appreciate it. The next moment, a sword sounded, and the sword energy rushed into the sky, like a real dragon flying in the air, overlooking the ants. The sword energy stirred the wind and clouds, carrying a force of 10,000 kilograms, and fell from the sky, smashing towards the demon cultivators. No one expected that Liang Huanan would suddenly turn around and attack, and everyone hurriedly offered up defensive magic weapons to try to resist this sword. But a skull flew out, growing against the wind, and instantly became extremely huge, with rolling demonic energy behind it, colliding with the sharp sword energy. Boom boom, a terrifying energy exploded in the crowd. The sword energy dissipated, and the skull was also blown to pieces, turned into ashes, and scattered everywhere with the wind. What a pity, Liang Huinan didn't expect this result, and sighed with regret, but his footsteps did not stop flying towards Lingayan Mountain. However, those demon cultivators were affected by the energy explosion and had no time to stop it. They could only watch Liang Huinan enter the mountain protection formation. Chapter 503 Seeking Help. Elder Liang, are you okay? Liang Huinan had many wounds all over his body, and blood was flowing out. He looked like a bloody man, which made many cultivators worried. Perhaps before today, only a few people knew Liang Huinan, but the battle with the demon cultivators was enough to make him an idol in the hearts of the disciples. It's okay, just some flesh wounds, it won't matter. Liang Huinan forcibly suppressed the surging blood in his body and dealt with everyone. Guardian Elder, you go to rest first. I will commend you after this battle is over. The head of the sect noticed something wrong and said hurriedly. Okay, Liang Huinan turned into a spiritual light and disappeared without a trace in an instant. Puff, as soon as he returned to the cave, before even closing the door, Liang Huinan couldn't help spitting out a large mouthful of dirty blood. Although his combat power is strong, he is only a giant and cultivator after all. Facing the siege of dozens of demon cultivators, how could he be as relaxed and comfortable as he looks? It was just to boost morale, and he kept holding on. As expected of a sect that has been passed down for thousands of years, it actually still hides such a powerful cultivator. The demon cultivator who had previously proposed to slowly wear down the Lingayan sect proved his previous words. If we continue to delay like this, more and more accidents will occur, a giant suddenly said. If the Lingayan sect defends this place and cannot completely control Qingshan province, I don't know how many of us can survive under the punishment of the holy sect. In fact, many people know this, but if they want to quickly solve the Lingayan sect, they need to do it themselves. But in this way, casualties are inevitable. They have finally cultivated to the giant realm, how can they bear to die? So let those puppets and low-level demon cultivators attack the mountain protection formation. Anyway, they are just some materials, and they will die if they die. They just need to wait for the formation to be broken and go into Rob. Brother Pei is right, why don't you take the lead and let us see your style? A weird voice broke the silent scene. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice, but saw that the person who spoke had rotten flesh on his face, loose hair, and ferocious yellow teeth in his mouth. His appearance was extremely ugly. Although the various evil arts practiced by the demon cultivators would damage the body, and their appearance was not as good-looking as that of the cultivators, it was rare to see someone so ugly. However, no one among the demon cultivators dared to show a trace of ridicule. This person was called the Evil Ghost Child. When he practiced a powerful evil art, he was accidentally attacked by the backlash and his body was almost collapsed. But when he was about to die, he actually survived and cultivated the 6 paths of evil ghost art that could summon 6 evil ghosts of the same realm. With this magic alone, the strength of the evil ghost child was above everyone else, and he was extremely cruel. I don't know how many golden elixirs died in his hands every year. Even if everyone expressed any opinions about him, a trace of dissatisfaction flashed in Brother Pei's eyes. He was quite confident in his own strength, but he lost more than he won against the evil ghost child. Besides, the reason why he said that was to unite the strength of everyone. Why would he come to the front alone? Junior brother is very powerful, and I am not as good as him. You should be the leader, Senior Brother Pei said gently. Tisk, the evil ghost boy laughed disdainfully and said, then, fellow brothers, let's go. He swept his eyes across everyone's faces, and without waiting for their answers, the evil ghost boy turned into a black light and rushed to the front line of the battlefield. The giant and demon cultivators looked at each other, not knowing who moved first, and finally all followed. Senior Brother Pei, who was at the end, gnashed his teeth and watched this scene. He didn't expect that the evil ghost boy, this bastard, would actually dare to agree. Now he has become the center of attention. The most important thing is that even if the attack on Lingayan sect fails in the end, he may be exempted from punishment because of this performance. The reason why everyone followed was because they saw this point, thinking that since they could not be the leader, then if they put in more effort next time, maybe they could also reduce the punishment? Damn it. When did this ugly bastard have so many tricks? Senior Brother Pei cursed indignantly. Although he was unwilling in his heart, he finally followed. The battle that just ended less than an hour ago was instantly climaxed by the arrival of the giant and demon cultivators. The elders of Lingayan sect could only choose an opponent each and hide in the formation to fight him. But it is more like passive defense to reduce the pressure on the mountain protection formation than to fight. But on the desolate and uninhabited land, there was a cultivator who was desperately rushing. This person was Su Chang'e, the seventh elder of Lingayan sect who escaped from the eyes of the demon cultivator army. When passing by the demon cultivator's fleet, Su Chang'e did not dare to make a sound, for fear that he would be discovered. After he finally escaped, Su Chang'e's original firm belief was shaken because of the great power of the demon cultivators. The demon cultivators are so powerful, even if they ask the Li family for help, they may not be able to save the sect, right? Perhaps by the time I rush back, the mountain protection formation has been broken by the demon cultivators, and all the disciples have become skeletons. Thoughts like these kept coming to his mind. Fortunately, Su Chang'e, who was able to cultivate to the golden elixir, had a good character and was not affected. Instead, he flew towards Wangsan Island at his fastest speed. At the same time, Wangsan Island. The tribesmen were busy because of the upcoming war. The earth fire was not extinguished day and night. In order to refine more spiritual objects, the tribesmen were even arranged to work in 3 shifts. Various spiritual objects were continuously sent to the alchemy hall, the formation hall, the talisman hall, etc., and what came out were bottles of spiritual pills, array plates, and talismans. Under the presidency and dispatch of the elders, the Li family was like a complex and sophisticated huge machine, running in an orderly manner. In this process, the elders, who were originally a little immature, received great training and their abilities were greatly improved. The cultivators sent by Lingayan sect for help should be here soon, right? How is the family preparing? Have all the clan members been notified? As the matter was approaching, Li Shiking seemed to be getting more and more restless. In just half an hour, he repeated the question several times. Li Zhirui was not on the hall at this time, but in the alchemy room of the cave, refining precious 4th-level treasure pills. He was in a very peaceful state of mind, and was not worried about the war that was about to break out. With the 2 major Yuanying forces of Shuling sect and Wu'ai Mountain, as long as the demon cultivators did not have several Yuanyings to take action, they would be invincible. It was nothing more than a matter of how many more people would be lost in the process. Li Zhirui did not dare to guarantee that all the clan members would return safely, but he would definitely do his best to protect the clan members and try his best to reduce the losses of the family. Chapter 504, Take Action. Su Chang'e, the elder of Lingayan sect, wants to see you. After galloping all the way, Su Chang'e arrived at Wangsan Island in just 1 hour. He was standing respectfully outside the clan land, but he was very anxious. Please come in, senior. A foundation building cultivator took him into the hall, where Li Zufang and a group of elders had been waiting. Su Chang'e was a little dissatisfied when he saw that there were only foundation building cultivators present, but now he had to ask for help, so he didn't dare to get angry and could only comfort himself. I don't know why the senior came to visit, Li Zufang asked curiously. As for the reason, they already knew it. Now if it was just a pretense, it would be convenient to put forward more conditions, so as not to make them feel that the Li family did not help them in their time of need, or even threaten them with their own disaster, which would make them feel resentful. Su Chang'e was in a state of anxiety at this time, so he naturally didn't notice Li Zufang's unnaturalness. He immediately said, now Lingayan sect is under siege by demon cultivators. Please help us, Li family, because we are both cultivators and close neighbors. Of course, we have prepared a gift for the Li family. As he said that, he took out a storage bag from his arms. A trace of heartache flashed in his eyes, but he had to give it away, saying, this is part of it. Your family can see our full sincerity. Li Zufang curiously looked inside and was stunned on the spot. There were 3 4th-level spiritual materials and several jade slips full of taurine. Although he had not checked the contents of the jade slips, it was not difficult to guess how precious the contents recorded in them were just from the taurine. Lingayan sect is really willing to give it up. Li Zufang sighed in his heart. It's a pity that although the treasures are good, they are not what the Li family wants. Seeing that no one spoke up, Su Chang'e became more anxious and impatient. Could it be that the Li family didn't like these things? But it shouldn't be. The Li family is just a new noble that has risen in the past 100 or 200 years. In terms of foundation, it is far inferior to the Lingayan sect, which has existed for 1,000 years. In particular, They have inherited part of the inheritance of the Qingshan sect. In the jade slips he took out this time, there are 2 powerful magical powers, 5 elements divine light and summoning mountains. Needless to say, the former, although the 5 elements divine light is common, it is powerful and easy for cultivators to shape, and the summoning mountain magical power, as its name suggests, can summon the phantom of the mountain. As for whether it is a towering mountain or a small hillock, it depends on how much mana the cultivator pays when performing it. In addition, there is also a danjing that records 2 4th-level treasure pills, more than a dozen 3rd-level elixirs, and a book that records 99 methods, including 1st-level to 4th-level goo refining methods. Patriarch Li, these are only part of the gifts from the sect, and the rest, Su Chang'e hurriedly explained. He knew that doing so would make the Li family push their luck and ask for more benefits, but there was nothing he could do. Now Lingayan sect is in danger. If it is just a moment late, the mountain gate will be breached by the demon cultivators, and tens of thousands of disciples will become the blood food and refining materials of the demon cultivators. He now only wants to ask the Li family to take action as soon as possible, and rush to Lingayan Mountain immediately to save the sect senior. Please be patient. This matter still needs to be reported to several ancestors. After getting their consent, my Li family will agree. What the Li clan leader said is right. After a while, Li Zufang led Li Shiking back to the main hall. My Li family already knows what you are asking for, but if you want to save your sect, my Li family has only one condition, Li Shiking said as soon as he sat down. Su Chang'e felt something was wrong. He was not afraid that the Li family would make conditions, but he was afraid that they would not make them, or be like now. After this matter, Lingayan sect will become a vassal of the Li family. It only needs to pay tribute according to the rules every year, and it needs to respond to the call of the Li family when necessary. What? Su Chang'e's reaction was a little too excited, and he jumped up from his chair. Lingayan sect was originally a vassal of Qingshan sect, a Yuanying power. But now, 1,000 years have passed. Lingayan sect has been independent for so long. How could it be willing to become a vassal of a lower class again? Unfortunately, this is the condition of the Li family. Don't agree? Then find someone else. But I don't have the power to agree on behalf of Lingayan sect, Su Chang'e suddenly said. Why don't your family take action to deal with the demon cultivator first, and I will help persuade those fellow disciples. Li Shiking looked at him with a sharp gaze and said, in this case, then fellow Taoist, find someone else. The Li family needs the rich resources of Qingshan province, especially those secret realms. Obviously, it is a Yuanying family, but it does not even have a secret realm that it can control. In such a large territory, only Guangqingzhou has a second-level secret realm, but it is an uncontrollable wild secret realm. The closest to the Li family is Shanli Mountain, thousands of miles away. Is this distance far? Not far. For a giant cultivator, it only takes 1 or 2 hours to reach. But for a Lingayan sect in crisis, these 1 or 2 hours may very likely determine its life or death. But in fact, it takes more than 1 or 2 hours to go to Shanli Mountain to ask for help. The 2 places are far apart, and it will take 2 or 3 hours for the reinforcements to travel. Please save the lives of tens of thousands of cultivators in my Lingayan sect. Su Chang'e bowed to the bottom, abandoning the dignity of being a giant cultivator, and looked at Li Shiking with pleading eyes. If it involves other things, Li Shiking might still be soft-hearted. Unfortunately, this matter is related to the future development of the family, and this pleading can't shake his persistence at all. On behalf of Lingayan sect, I agree. In the end, Su Chang'e had no choice but to agree temporarily. After solving the current crisis, we will find a way to slowly plan and solve this problem. Please tell me again to the stone, but I hope you can be more detailed. Su Chang'e's face changed slightly, and he sighed imperceptibly, but he still did it. After driving away the demon cultivators and saving Lingayan sect, I am willing to respect the Li family of Banyan Island as the main sect. Li Shiking heard the little thoughts in these words, but he didn't care, because the Li family had already made a perfect plan. In that case, please wait for a moment, we will set off as soon as possible. Please hurry up, fellow Taoist. In less than half an hour, the Li family raised several spirit ships, led by Li Zhirui, followed by 3 giant cultivators Li Zhixuan, Li Chengru, and Li Changlin. In addition, there are dozens of foundation building and hundreds of key training. With such a scale, in front of the demon cultivator army, it is just a landslide, and it will be broken with a poke. But if Li Zhirui is added, then everything becomes completely different. One Yuanying's engine is equivalent to more than a dozen giant cultivators. Nascent soul. How wonderful it would be if Lingayan sect also had a nascent soul. Su Chang'el's words were full of envy. Are you all ready? After receiving a chorus of responses, Li Zhirui immediately shouted, "Let's go!" His voice was as loud as a bronze bell, reaching the ears of every member of the clan. The spirit ship started, and within a few breaths, it disappeared from the side of Li Shiking and others. Chapter 505 Havi. The spirit ship was speeding, but Su Chang'el still felt that the speed was too slow, but he couldn't speak towards it, so he could only walk back and forth anxiously. Li Zhirui glanced at him lightly, and then lowered his eyes to think about the situation in Lingayan sect. Li Zhirui hoped that the group of demon cultivators could show their true ability and break the mountain protection formation before they arrived, and kill a large number of Lingayan sect disciples. Especially those giant cultivators. Even if they didn't fall, their foundation was damaged and they couldn't go any further. After all, Lingayan sect is an old-fashioned giant force that has been passed down for thousands of years, with a deep foundation. Although no Yuanying cultivators have been born before, after this disaster, it is hard to guarantee that no one will be stimulated to break through the shackles and become a Yuanying cultivator. Once this happens, the Li family will not be able to control Lingayan sect, and it may even be turned into a guest. This is what Li Zhirui absolutely doesn't want to see. What he wants to see is a Lingayan sect with wailing everywhere, devastation, only 1 in 10 cultivators left, and a loss of most of the foundation, which cannot be restored for hundreds of years. So even though the spirit ship was traveling at the fastest speed, in fact, it had been tampered with by the weapon refiner Li Changru, and its speed was much slower than that of an ordinary third-level spirit ship. The spirit bane is consumed too much? If it continues like this, the grade of the spirit bane will drop in less than an hour. The formation elder, who had aged 10 years because he presided over the formation, announced a very bad news to everyone. After the grade drops, can the mountain protection formation still maintain its current strength? No, the formation elder replied in a dry voice. In fact, the other elders had already understood the answer in their hearts, but they just didn't give up. How many spirit stones are left in the warehouse? How long can it last? The formation elder estimated in his mind and said, if the demon cultivators maintain the current attack intensity, plus the spirit stones in the warehouse, the mountain protection formation can only last for half a day at most. Originally, there were more than just these few spirit stones in the Lingayan sect's warehouse, but in order to boost morale, a large part of them was taken out to reward disciples. Moreover, because the demon cultivators came suddenly, they did not prepare too many strategic materials, so they directly absorbed the spiritual stones to restore their mana. Therefore, the half-day mentioned by the formation elder was based on the existing spiritual stones. In fact, it would not take that long, because the spiritual stones were consumed all the time. Put them all into the formation. If it is still not enough, borrow from the disciples, the head of the sect said solemnly. Elder Qi, I will leave this matter to you. The formation elder immediately stood up and responded, and then hurried away. As the door of the hall closed, the scene fell into heavy silence again. The 7th elder has been gone for a day. Why hasn't he called for reinforcements yet? Could it be that he has escaped on his own? An elder suddenly spoke. The life card was intact, but he had not returned yet, so there was only this one explanation. And he talked about this at this time. But it was just jealousy in his heart. He felt that Su Chang'el could survive, but he could only stay at the mountain gate to die. Elder Su is not such a person, although the head of the sect was not sure. In the current situation, such words that could shake the morale of the army would never be allowed to appear. We have persisted for so long, and I think the magic power of the demon cultivators will be running out again. The pressure will be greatly reduced. Arrange the rotation of the disciples, and Elder Su will definitely come back immediately. But they didn't know what kind of bloody and terrifying nightmare they would face next. A bunch of trash. A mere giant sect, with an advantage, has not yet taken it down. A middle-aged man who looked ordinary stood in front of the evil ghost boy and others, and scolded dissatisfiedly. As soon as these words came out, everyone shuddered involuntarily. They didn't even dare to beg for mercy, but immediately knelt down, prostrated themselves to admit their mistakes, and waited for his verdict. If you were not still useful now, you wouldn't appear in front of me at this time. But before everyone could breathe a sigh of relief, he stretched out his hand and pointed, and several black lights sank into everyone's body. A deep pain broke out in their bodies. Even though their struggling faces were twisted and their mouths were filled with the smell of blood, no one dared to speak, for fear of angering this nascent soul demon cultivator. "Come with me and take down Lingayan's sect." Yes, everyone stood up and staggered after him, enduring the severe pain. Cry, he was seen hanging in the air, slapping his waist, and a black and golden giant eagle skeleton appeared out of thin air. The giant eagle spread its wings, flapping a terrifying hurricane, and fiercely pounced on the mountain protection formation. Crack, suddenly, a slight shattering sound was heard. Go! Dozens of giant and demon cultivators moved upon hearing the sound, not daring to hold back, and attacked the weak points of the formation with all their strength. Is God going to destroy my Lingayan sect? Such a huge movement attracted the attention of all the cultivators, and then they saw a horrifying scene. The mountain protection formation that had been protecting them was completely shattered at this moment. Even the formation flags buried in various places in Lingayan Mountain were completely scrapped. Kill! The Yuaning demon cultivator shouted and flew towards the brightest place in the mountain. The monk's sutra pavilion was not attractive to the demon cultivators, because the essence of the two sides' cultivation methods was different. Instead of spending time to transform the cultivation methods, it would be more convenient to create a brand new cultivation method. Speaking of which, he appeared here not because the evil ghost child and his companions had not taken down the Lingayan sect, but because he had just broken through not long ago and his previous accumulation had been consumed, so he wanted to come here to make a fortune. This is also the reason why he went straight to the treasure house as soon as the formation was broken. Those giant and demon cultivators did not have this ability, and as soon as they came in, they were targeted by the giant and cultivators. Of course, not all cultivators are so courageous. Most of the cultivators wanted to escape as soon as the formation was broken. And there were many giant and elders among them. So although the Lingayan sect had more people, it was now at a disadvantage. A large number of cultivators were killed by the demon cultivators. The wailing was endless, and the bloody smell enveloped the entire Lingayan mountain. It no longer looked like a blessed place for immortals. When the head of the sect saw this scene, his eyes were filled with tears, and he muttered to himself, "The Lingayan sect, which has been passed down for thousands of years, was destroyed in my hands, idiot. How dare you be distracted in the battle?" As the voice fell, the head of the Lingayan sect's head was also killed. It is worthy of being a giant sect that has been passed down for many years. There are so many good things. The Yuaning demon cultivator found the inner layer as soon as he entered the treasure house. Those spiritual objects that flashed with precious light were taken into his pocket in just a moment. In just a quarter of an hour, he looted the entire treasure house and filled it with space instruments. He didn't care about the demon cultivators who were fighting with the cultivators. He just glanced at them and flew away. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 506 Satisfaction. Half an hour after the nascent soul demon cultivator left, Li Zhirui and his party could see the scene of Lingayan Mountain from afar. The original pavilions, towers, and fake stone fountains, now all that came into view were corpses, blood, and bones, a scene of hell on earth. The sect was breached. Su Chang'e threw himself on the bow, as if he had lost his soul, and kept repeating in his mouth, "How is it possible? This is impossible." The sect's mountain protection formation is famous for its defense, and he was so lost that he did not notice the flash of joy in Li Zhirui's eyes. It seems that those demon cultivators are still quite capable. Li Zhirui was very satisfied with this result. After this disaster, Lingayan sect might not be able to recover for hundreds of years. Zixuan, Chengru, when you arrive at Lingayan Mountain, each of you will choose a giant and demon cultivator as your opponent, but don't be too strong, and focus on tempering yourself, Li Zhirui said in a serious voice transmission. Now they just need to clean up the mess. Of course, they have to pretend to fight so that the Lingayan sect monks will be grateful to them, but their lives are more important. Yes, the fleet of Li Zhirui and his group was also discovered by the demon cultivators at the first time. When did the Lingayan sect send people to invite reinforcements? Tisk. A certain giant and demon cultivator sneered disdainfully and said, "I didn't expect that there would be cultivators who dared to come and die. It's just right. My 100 ghost banner is still short of a few ghost generals." This group of cultivators came at the right time, Because Li Zhirui restrained his aura and the fleet did not carry the name of the Li family, the demon cultivators did not feel the danger at all, but chatted shamelessly. Half an hour before Li Zhirui and his group arrived, the demon cultivators slaughtered 70% to 80% of the Lingayan sect monks. The remaining 20% to 30% were protected by several powerful fighting elders. However, after such a long battle, they were already at the end of their strength. They were completely overdrawing their lifespans to persist and try to break through. If nothing unexpected happened, even if they paid the price of their own lives, they would not be able to take the disciples they were protecting away. Because the demon cultivators had long seen through their intentions, they did not fight them desperately, but only wasted time. When the lifespans of these fighting elders were exhausted, those disciples would also die. A demon cultivator who had practiced pupil skills was the first to see the situation of the fleet, and laughed and said, 4 giant cultivators? And a few third-level monsters? Dare to come to rescue people, what did you say? Several demon cultivators who reacted quickly instantly knew who the people were, and shouted loudly, they are cultivators from the Li family, so what? It's just a few giant, and that Yuaning didn't come, what are you afraid of, idiot? There are only a few giant cultivators in the Li family. If they don't have enough strength, how can they send out nearly half of the giant at once? While he was talking, several alert demon cultivators had already retreated to the west. Since I've been discovered, I won't hide any more, with Li Zhirui's powerful consciousness far exceeding that of ordinary Yuaning's engine. He naturally knew everything that happened inside the demon cultivators. Boom! The terrifying Yuaning pressure burst out, and some low-level demon cultivators with weak wills were directly stunned. This one is really here. Run! The demon cultivators fled, and all kinds of spiritual lights fled in all directions. You want to leave? Aren't you too disrespectful to me? Li Zhirui stretched out his hand towards the void and grabbed it. The spiritual energy within a radius of several miles was mobilized by him, turning into vines of different colors, tying up the demon cultivators. This is your opponent, Zhixun. Soon, Li Zhirui arranged opponents who were equally matched with Li Zhixun and the others, even including those low-level clansmen. Although their end was also inevitable, they were at least luckier than the demon cultivators who were not chosen, and at least they could live for a while longer, even if it was only 1 or 2 hours. Alice, Li Zhirui sighed with compassion and said, you should consider it as paying for the lives of the dead cultivators. The vines instantly pierced into the dungeon of the demon cultivators and took their lives. Wake up! After doing all this, Li Zhirui shouted to Su Chang'e, letting him quickly regain his composure. Thank you, Senior, for avenging tens of thousands of cultivators in Lingayan sect. Liang Huanan dragged his broken body and bowed in front of Li Zhirui. It's just a transaction between us, no need to thank me. Li Zhirui acted very cold, but when he looked at Liang Huanan, his eyes were very complicated, with regrets, but more of them were gratitude. Li Zhirui could see that after this life and death catastrophe, this sword cultivator had already opened the door to the nascent soul, and he only needed to take the final step to be on an equal footing with him. But fortunately, he was about to die. In order to protect the last flame of Lingayan sect, Liang Huanan can only gain powerful strength by burning his own lifespan. Liang Huanan shook his head and said, the behavior of the predecessor is worth remembering in our hearts. Li Zhirui said no more, turned around and left, paying attention to the tribesmen who were fighting with the demons, and left the rest of the time to Liang Huanan and Su Chang'e. Elder Su, what conditions did you agree to with the Li family? Su Chang'e lowered his head embarrassedly and said in a low voice, the Li family wants the sect to respect its master. There is only one condition. I agreed, vassal. Liang Huanan was stunned when he heard this, and then smiled bitterly and said, that's good. Now the sect has suffered heavy losses, and its strength is less than 1/10 of what it was before. It really needs a powerful force to protect it. Is the sect's loss so heavy? Su Chang'e asked hurriedly. The giant elders died or fled. Now, there are only 3 people who can still breathe, except for the 5 of us. The outer disciples were almost all slaughtered. The losses of the inner disciples and the true disciples were relatively small, but still more than 70%, although there has been no accurate statistics. This data is not much different. After all, the mountains and plains were full of demon cultivators before. Except for the disciples under their protection, it would be difficult for other disciples to survive. But the most serious loss is the accumulation of so many years of the sect. The treasury was looted by the demon cultivators. The sutra library was also severely damaged. The more Su Chang'e listened, The satyr's expression became, and he said self-blamingly, "If I had been faster and arrived at Wongsan Island earlier, it's not your fault." Liang Huinan interrupted him and said, "An hour ago, a nascent soul demon cultivator took action personally and gathered the power of many demon cultivators to break the mountain protection formation in an instant. Chang'e, our lifespans are about to come to an end. Now you are the only one in the sect that is intact." Liang Huinan looked at him steadily and said, "I hope you can take on the responsibility of revitalizing Lingayan sect." Chapter 507 Action. Su Chang'e hesitated. His family knew his own business. He had been a mediocre person from the beginning to the end. How could he take on such a big task as revitalizing Lingayan sect? "Chang'e, you can do it. Believe in yourself." Liang Huinan looked at him with encouragement in his eyes. In fact, he knew that Su Chang'e's ability was mediocre. It was just that the situation was like this, there was nothing he could do. Compared with those elders who only thought about escaping when the disaster was imminent, Su Chang'e at least brought back support and saved the last spark of Lingayan sect. However, if those people knew that Lingayan sect was finally saved, I don't know what they would think. What is certain is that there will definitely be many elders who will come back and compete with Su Chang'e for power and profit, disturbing the sect. Unfortunately, even if he knew, he couldn't do anything. He could only remind Su Chang'e to be careful with those people. At the same time, Li Zhirui was standing in the air, watching the battle between the clansmen and the demon cultivators. Needless to say, Li's Hexon's ability and skills, with her masterful swordsmanship, left the giant and demon cultivator powerless to fight back. He could only defend himself in a panic, but in this situation, it would not take long before he would die in her hands. Li Chengru's performance also satisfied Li Zhirui. After all, it was the previous battle that honed him. With his life magic weapon, the 9 Fires Burning Heaven Pagoda, he used his best spells to force his opponent into a desperate situation step by step. On the other hand, the newly promoted giant and Li Chenglin could only barely cope with it because his life magic weapon had not been refined yet. In the end, he should be able to draw. But Li Zhirui paid the most attention to those low-level clansmen. Because their strength, generally speaking, is not as good as that of the demon cultivators of the same realm. After all, the demon cultivators have grown up in killing since they entered the sect. Let's not talk about their realm and character for the time being, but their strength is definitely good, otherwise they would have died in the hands of their fellow disciples long ago. When the last clan member finished the battle, it was already evening. Lingayan Mountain, which was originally full of corpses and blood, has now restored its original beautiful scenery after being cleaned and washed by many cultivators. As the sky darkened, Li Zhirui was not in a hurry to leave, but planned to stay in Lingayan Mountain for one night. It has not yet been publicly announced that Lingayan sect is a vassal of the Li family, and now that people are in panic, coupled with the rescue during the day, it is the best time for everyone to return to their hearts. What are the madness of Shuling sect and Wu'ai Mountain? Why did they suddenly go crazy and attack Qingshan province? Could it be that they discovered our existence and suddenly took action? Suddenly, another giant and demon cultivator sneered and said, "The spirit ship that transports spiritual objects has been back and forth more than a dozen times so far. Can this be done suddenly? Impossible. We have been in Qingshan province for several years and have never been leaked." But as soon as he finished speaking, he remembered the secret conversation in the cave. It's bad. Almost all of the fellow disciples who went to Lingayan sect had their life cards broken, the man said breathlessly. Before I came, only a few life cards were intact. Who did it? Lingayan sect doesn't have such a strong strength. Is it the Li family or Shanli Mountain? If it was normal, even if the 2 Yuanying forces took action, they would not be unable to fight them. But now, Shuling sect and Wu'ai Mountain are attacking their territory, and they can't spare too many people. Even if they can barely squeeze out some magic cultivators, letting them go to Lingayan sect is just sending themselves to death. It seems that these 3 families have already discussed it and put us in such a passive situation. Soon, a magic cultivator saw through this. What should we do now? The 3 Yuanying forces are attacking us together. With their current strength, we can't hold on for long. If it was just like this, it would be fine. At worst, they would give up and run away. But the most important thing is that if they return to the sect, they will be judged as mission failures. And mission failures will inevitably be punished. Do we have any other choice? Fleeing without fighting is a more serious crime. If the punishment, which was already very dangerous, is increased a little, then they may not be able to escape unscathed. and even several people may die. You are right, we have no choice but to confront them head-on. The leading demon cultivator sighed helplessly and said, quickly report this matter back to the holy sect and ask for support. Doing so is also to tell the sect that this place is very dangerous. If there is no support, they can't defend it at all. In this way, even if the punishment cannot be completely exempted, it will at least not be so dangerous. Everyone said yes, and then immediately mobilized people to start a fight with the two major sects, Shenli Mountain, in the sect hall. The two Yuanyings Henshin Yunli and King Li, who rarely show up, are also sitting on the big chair behind the head of the sect. What was the matter with the commotion caused by the Li family yesterday? Have you investigated it clearly now? The Li family mobilized several spirit ships at once, which were filled with cultivators of various realms, and the leader was Li Zhirui, the only Yuanyings Henshin of the Li family. Any of these three alone would be enough to attract the attention of Shenli Mountain, let alone the combination of the three. If the two places were not far apart, the cultivators who were investigating the situation would have to follow very carefully, and the specific information would have been investigated clearly long ago. The Li family went to the Lingayan sect of Qingshan Prefecture this time, and the purpose was to help the Lingayan sect out. The elder in charge of this matter explained in detail to everyone. The Lingayan sect was surrounded by demon cultivators. The Li family went to rescue. Many elders were stunned when they heard this. How could these unrelated things come together? In addition, we also captured two monks who escaped after the mountain protection formation was broken in the territory of Lingayan sect. The elders' face straightened and said, according to what they said, the other two major forces in Qingshan province have actually been controlled by the demon cultivators for a long time, but because the news was suddenly leaked for some reason, the demon cultivators decided to suddenly attack Lingayan sect. As for the Li family, before Lingayan sect was completely surrounded, an elder with special talents secretly ran to Banyan Island to invite him over. I always feel that this matter is inseparable from the Li family. And the Li family has great ambitions. As soon as these words came out, they were recognized by all the elders. Li Zhirui has always been cautious, but this time he took away nearly 30% of the strength of the Li family. If it was just an ordinary trivial matter, he would never do this. But this is also a good thing for us. The head of the sect suddenly laughed and said, we can take the opportunity to attack Qingshan province and occupy part of the Qingshan mountains under the excuse of expelling the demon cultivators. Chapter 508, Divide. The next morning, Li Zhirui personally came forward and announced in front of the remaining Lingayan sect disciples that from now on, Lingayan sect became a vassal force of the Li family and was protected by the Li family. Most of the cultivators who had been frightened by the previous tragic and cruel war were relieved after hearing Li Zhirui's words. With the protection of the Yuanying family, they would never suffer such a terrible situation again. Li Zhirui saw the changes in everyone's expressions, the unwillingness and perseverance of Liang Huanan and others, and the expectations and relief for the low-level disciples. Liang Huanan and others would not lie for 2 years. Even if they passed on their own Taoist traditions, they would not threaten the Li family in a short time. After all, no matter how talented a person is, it takes time to grow up. After the most fundamental things were determined, Li Zhirui and Liang Huanan and others privately discussed trivial matters such as the future tribute share of Lingayan sect. I heard that Lingayan sect has mastered 2 secret realms. This was Li Zhirui's main purpose. After all, the treasure house was looted by the demon cultivators, and Li Zhirui also took advantage of the chaos to copy some of the inheritances in the Sutra library that the Li family did not have. The only 2 second-level secret realms in the hands of the Lingayan sect caught his eye. Senior, this is the control token for the 2 secret realms. Su Chang'e hesitated for a moment, but still handed it over. Isn't this made of the boundary stone? Li Zhirui said with some surprise. The boundary stone can be used to fix the secret realm, so that it can be controlled by the cultivators and can actively enter and exit the secret realm. The matching magic tools must also have fragments of the boundary stone to connect with it. It seems that the senior doesn't know that if you want to control the secret realm, it is not only the boundary stone that can do it. Liang Huanan raised his eyebrows slightly, but when he thought of the history of the Li family, he understood it instantly and started to explain. The boundary stone is extremely rare and difficult to obtain. For this reason, many forces can only guard the secret realm in vain and cannot operate it. Later, in order to solve this problem, countless array masters joined forces, consumed countless natural treasures, and jointly deduced a formation that can replace the boundary stone, called the boundary array. The most critical part of the array is to plant a spiritual plant of a higher grade in the secret realm, and use it as the core of the array to control the entire secret realm. Li Zhirui heard this and his eyes lit up. This method is perfect for controlling low-level secret realms. However, according to Liang Huanan, if the secret realm is too high, such as a 5th grade secret realm, then a 6th grade spiritual plant is needed to set up the array. But the value of a 6th grade spiritual plant is not lower than that of a boundary stone. Of course, this is just a small problem, and there is no need to think so far. I wonder if Lingayan sect has a formation diagram for the boundary array. Of course there's. It seemed that the other party had been prepared for a long time. As soon as Li Zhirui opened his mouth, they took out the things and sent them to him. Faced with a respectful and responsive operation of Lingayan sect, Li Zhirui not only did not relax, but became more vigilant. Li Zhirui put away the formation map. He could not tell whether it was true or not, so he had to wait until Zhang Fengwu came back before asking carefully. Lingayan Mountain has been conquered, but there must be a lot of demon cultivators left in this area, so I want to organize a large army to clean up the surrounding area. Let Lingayan province return to its former peace, Li Zhirui said with a smile, suppressing his vigilance. Of course, this is just an excuse. The reason why Li Zhirui said this is mainly to prevent Shenli Mountain in the north from occupying too much territory in Qingshan province. Even if it cannot be stopped, it must be allowed to expand to the west, not to the south. Li Zhirui believed that Shenli Mountain had already taken action at this time. After all, he had never thought that he could hide it from Shenli Mountain, and such a big movement could not be concealed even if he wanted to. You are right, senior. As long as those demon cultivators are not eliminated, Qingshan province will not be at peace. With senior leading us, demon cultivators are no problem. Others responded one after another, wishing to tear those demon cultivators into pieces right now. You are so thoughtful. Li Zhirui chuckled and said, in that case, then follow me. After that, he sacrificed a huge spirit ship, and with a flicker of his figure, he appeared at the bow, on the battlefield in the south of Qingshan province. A group of demon cultivators are fighting bloody battles to block the monks from entering. Unfortunately, due to insufficient numbers and lack of strong power, it is becoming increasingly difficult for the demon cultivators to block them. If this continues, it will not be long before they are killed by the monks. But there is no way. Now the demon cultivators are fighting on two fronts and facing great pressure. Now they can't spare any manpower to help. And there is constant bad news. Damn it. How did Shenli Mountain get involved? When the demon cultivator in the lead saw the new information, he couldn't help but exclaimed. The demon cultivators, who were already in a tight balance, were completely thrown off balance by the sudden entry of the divine Thunder Mountain. The demon cultivators began to be defeated on a large scale. If it were in other states, the demon cultivators would flee in all directions, which might cause some troubles to the cultivators, such as sacrificing a village of mortals or slaughtering thousands of mortals. But this time it was different. The four forces had protected the dwindling number of local mortals early on, and gathered them together at the first opportunity. There were very few mortals left alone in the outside world. After all, if the mortals in Qingshan state were slaughtered, it would be a troublesome matter for each force, and it would take time and effort to mobilize the mortals in their own territory to fill the gap. At the same time, Li Zhirui also discovered this situation very quickly. He felt relieved for a moment and said with emotion, it is worthy of being the foundation of Qingshan sect. The four Yuanying forces have now taken action. It seems that Shenli Mountain is not slow. It has actually established many strongholds on the territory of Muling sect. Li Zhirui brought a group of cultivators to the border with the Muling sect. He could see a group of cultivators controlling thunder to kill the demon cultivators, forcing them to flee in embarrassment. The situation continued to tilt towards the cultivators. Under the cleansing of the four Yuanying forces, it would not take long to solve all the demon cultivators in Qingshan province and return the world to a bright and clear state. Under the control of Li Zhirui, the territory controlled by the Li family in Qingshan province was only a little larger than that of Lingayan sect at the beginning, and the direction of expansion was naturally to the north. In this way, if Shenli Mountain wanted to expand, it could only move towards the unknown territory in the west. But in fact, this place had long been targeted by Wu'ai Mountain, but it had not yet swept all the way. If nothing unexpected happens, the two families will confront each other and may even fight each other. In this way, Li Zhirui's goal of instigating Shanli Mountain and Wu'ai Mountain will be achieved. I wish you all a happy Dragon Boat Festival. Chapter 509-2. But the final situation made Li Zhirui very disappointed. The two major sects of Shanli Mountain and Wu'ai Mountain were very restrained. They did not fight for the territory. They just accelerated the speed of conquering the demon cultivators to occupy a larger territory. Brother Jiu, are we going to stop now? Li Zhixun asked in confusion. During this period of time, the number of giant and demon cultivators who died in Li Zhixun's hands exceeded 1 palm. She could clearly feel the growth of her cultivation, so she was very much looking forward to fighting with the demon cultivators. As a result, Li Zhirui was ready to go home. Too much is as bad as too little, Li Zhirui said 4 words calmly. The territory of Lingayan sect was not small, and it also led many clansmen to occupy a piece of the territory of Yuanmu Lingzong. Therefore, the territory occupied by the Li family in Qingshan province has exceeded 1/3. Their family alone occupied such a large territory, so wouldn't the territory that the 3 forces of Shanli Mountain could get be less? It's already in the limelight now. If we continue to push forward, there's no guarantee that they won't join hands to deal with the Li family. It's better to stop while we're ahead. At the same time, I also plan to give part of the territory to Wu'ai Mountain and Shulingmen. Li Zhirui's eyes flashed with an inexplicable brilliance. Li Zhixun, Li Shengru and others around him all looked up and looked at him in confusion. Li Chenglin seemed to be thinking about something, as if he had guessed Li Zhirui's purpose. This scene happened to be seen by Li Zhirui, and he smiled and said, Chenglin, tell me what you think about this. Is Uncle Jiu planning to use the power of Wu'ai Mountain to help share the pressure of Shanli Mountain? And Shulingman is trying to balance Wu'ai Mountain? At the same time, he also wants to make friends with it. Li Chenglin had no choice but to stand up and explain his guess. Not bad. Li Zhirui looked at him with appreciation. This child is still as smart as before. Li Zhixun frowned and said, Brother Jiu, this plan is indeed good, but aren't you worried that the 2 families will turn against us in the future and collude with Shanli Mountain? By then, the Li family will not only lose a large piece of territory, but also face the 3 Yuanying sects alone. The pressure can be imagined. It's mainly to buy more time for the family. Li Zhirui's expression did not change, but his eyes became extremely deep, making it difficult for people to see his plan. He never thought that with this little interest and friendship, the Li family would always be in a friendly relationship with the Wu'ai Mountain and Shuling sect. Today they will cooperate with the Li family for Qingshan province, and tomorrow they will also take action against the Li family for other interests. It's just to introduce the forces of the 2 families to muddy the water a little and buy more time for the Li family to develop. Now Li Zhiru and Zhang Fengwu are both trying to break through the Yuanying. As long as one of them becomes a Yuanying Zhenjin, the Li family will no longer have to make such calculations. Let's go. Li Zhiru retracted his gaze and said calmly, the King Shanzhao incident is over for us. It's time to return to Wangxin Island. There may be some hidden demon cultivators, but they are just ants. They will not affect the overall situation. Even with the current strength of Lingayan sect, they can be dealt with. Then there is no need for them to stay here and waste time. The spirit ship with the Li family flag lifted off in the sight of all the cultivators. In just a moment, it flew dozens of miles away and disappeared. You have experienced many battles this time, and you must have some insights in your heart. After returning, take the time to comprehend it well, and you may gain something. Li Zhirui reminded on the spirit ship. Even though he took good care of the tribesmen he brought out this time, many of them still died and were injured. There was nothing he could do about it. After all, there was only one Li Zhirui. If he encountered several tribesmen who were threatened with life at the same time and were far away, he would not be able to save them all, and could only make choices. But the good thing is that the tribesmen who survived at least experienced a life and death battle. Those demon cultivators knew that Li Zhirui was there. Even if they defeated their opponents, they would not be able to escape. However, they were unwilling to die like this. Under the contradiction, they vented their anger on the Li family cultivators who fought with them. Thinking that they had to take someone with them before they died, they used all kinds of killing moves without reservation. It can be said that many clansmen walked around the gates of hell. There is great terror between life and death. But there are also great opportunities. After this experience, many clansmen of the Li family have made breakthroughs. What makes Li Zhirui happiest is that 2 clansmen in the late stage of foundation building have crossed the threshold of Jinden. In other words, in the near future, the Li family is likely to have 2 more giant cultivators. Cheng Hua, Cheng Wu, you two should comprehend the family's summary of the elixir formation experience. When we return to Banyan Island, I will help you apply for 2 spiritual caves. You just need to practice with peace of mind, and don't worry about other things. If he was not afraid that the 2 of them would be too deeply influenced by him and fail in the end, Li Zhirui would have planned to teach them step by step. However, it can be seen how much Li Zhirui values these 2 people. The 2 of them also gained the envy and jealousy of the boat's clansmen. Many people muttered in their hearts that they were lucky, and regretted why they didn't have that luck. Yes. Thank you Uncle Jiu for your concern, the 2 shouted excitedly. Next, we will distribute your gains in this battle. After this, everyone no longer cared about Li Chengwu and Li Chenghua, and stared at Li Zhirui with fiery eyes. Yes. All the spiritual objects of the demon cultivators killed by the clansmen were in Li Zhirui's hands, instead of being collected directly by them. The reason for doing so is that they are worried that the demon cultivators will have hidden hands, as well as various magic techniques and spells. Especially the latter. The magic techniques are famous for their cultivation speed, and the spells pursue powerful power. Although Li Zhirui repeatedly emphasized the defects of the demon cultivators, and even exaggerated them, describing the cultivation process of the magic techniques as extremely terrifying. But he knew very well that for many low-level clansmen, especially those clansmen whose realms have not made any progress for many years, the magic techniques of the demon cultivators have a fatal attraction. In order to prevent the appearance of demon cultivators in the Li family, Li Zhirui decided to start from the source. He would collect the spoils of the clansmen, and after his identification and confirmation that there was no danger, he would return them to the original clansmen. Although this is very troublesome, the safety is greatly improved. However, the magic techniques are weird and changeable. Even Li Zhirui dare not ensure that there will be no problems after his inspection. He can only let them pay more attention. Chapter 510 Happy Event. At the same time, once you find a monster, don't be lucky, report it directly to the family. After confirmation, the family will give a generous reward. I have checked the spiritual objects in the storage bag, but I can't guarantee that there will be no problems. After you get it, if you find any problems, you must report it to the family in time. Li Zhirui stared at everyone with a stern face and said, at that time, not only will it harm yourself, but also your family and future generations. Use benefits to lure and use power to threaten. 2-pronged approach. If there are still people who are stubborn, then don't blame the family for disregarding their feelings. Faced with Li Zhirui's solemn warning, everyone naturally did not dare to be careless and hurriedly promised that they would never make mistakes. There was no trouble along the way, and everyone returned to Banyan Island smoothly. After all, in the corner of the Far East, Yuanying's engine is already the pinnacle of strength. Who dares to suddenly jump out to stop Li Zhirui? Let's all go back and rest first, Li Zhirui said to everyone, and then went straight to the main hall to explain the current situation of Qingshan province to Li Shiking, Li Zufang and the elders. But the most important thing is to discuss a plan to develop Qingshan province. Qingshan province is rich in resources. In the past, because the 3 major forces of Lingayan sect were united against the outside world, the Li family did not have the hard power to suppress the 3 families, so they could only envy those spiritual objects and let the clan members experience it themselves. But now it is different. 30% of the territory of Qingshan province belongs to the Li family. It is not suitable to fight like before. You can set up 2 teams, one specializing in hunting monsters in the mountains. If you encounter a high-grade or rare monster, you can capture it and bring it back to the family to tame it. The other is to look for various spiritual objects in the mountains, an elder said. The 2 can act alone or together. Well, it's a good idea, but you can't kill the goose that lays the golden eggs. You still have to control the degree. Li Zhirui nodded in approval and casually said a few words about the concept of sustainable development. As a result, everyone moved in this direction. After a series of arguments and discussions that lasted for several days, they finally came up with a plan that everyone agreed with. As for Li Zhirui, except for the first day he attended, he didn't go to the subsequent meetings at all. For him, if he had the time, why not seize the time to practice well? Why bother arguing with the elders about these trivial matters? The Li family left King Shan's Hao, Yunlei, who was in charge of the Muling sect, soon learned the news. As expected of the Li family, not only did they act decisively, But they also did not hesitate at all when they retreated, but the next piece of news made him frown immediately. In order to make friends with these two families, the Li family actually gave them a piece of land. Yunlei sighed, "It's really willing." When he saw the land given by the Li family, his face suddenly became gloomy, because the two families sealed off the south and west sides of Shanlai Mountain. Even if it was just a mud wall, no more than 10 feet high, it just stopped people. Time passed in a flash. And it was already a year later when he opened his eyes again. During this year, Li Zhirui has been honing his magic power and practicing hard. Although he has not yet broken through to the middle stage of the nascent soul, he is getting closer and closer. He also found time to perfect the water and wood escape technique. Although it is not perfect, it is barely enough. It's just that the speed is a bit slow when switching, and it is easy for the opponent to seize this opportunity. "Dad, are you out of retreat?" Li Chengshuo pushed the door open and saw Li Zhirui drinking tea in the courtyard. He shouted in surprise. "Are you just out of the formation hall?" "Well, I'm trying to design a third-level formation recently. If it succeeds, maybe I can break through to the late stage of foundation building." "Not bad, not bad, work hard." Li Zhirui could see that Li Chengshuo did not fall behind in her own cultivation while thinking about the formation. She is now in the perfect middle stage of foundation building. "Was Shenzhe?" Li Chengshuo curled his lips and said reluctantly, "Brother broke through a few days ago and is consolidating his realm?" "Huh?" Li Zhirui was stunned when he heard this, then he was overjoyed and said with a smile, "I didn't expect that this time I came out of retreat. It would be a double happiness. It would be great if Mother was here." Li Zhirui sighed. In this year, there was still no news about Zhang Fengwu. If it weren't for the fact that the life card was intact, he would not have sat here so quietly. "Believe in your mother, she will definitely succeed." After chatting for a few more words, seeing that Li Chengshuo looked tired, Li Zhirui said, "It's not an easy thing to deduce the formation. You are also exhausted now. Go back and rest." After about an hour, Li Chengsheng consolidated his realm and came out of retreat to register his current cultivation. But he didn't expect that Li Zhirui had been waiting for a long time. "Dad," Li Chengsheng bowed. Compared with the free and easy Li Chengshuo, Li Chengsheng is more rigorous and old-fashioned. He looks young, but always gives people a sense of maturity. Li Zhirui was used to it, so he stopped talking to him and said, "Although you have just broken through the late stage of foundation building, you should also start preparing for the formation of the golden elixir. Are you going to form the golden elixir by yourself, or take the golden elixir specially made by your family?" The former simply relies on his own mana and Taoism. If he is not careful, he will fail to pass the tribulation, while the latter has too many advantages. He can restore mana and resist inner demons. But everything has its pros and cons. If you take the golden elixir, the probability of obtaining the divine power bestowed by heaven is very slim, and the mana is not as strong as the former, and the soul is not as strong as the former. And the golden elixir cultivators like Li Zhirui, who take the spiritual objects of the golden elixir, are in the middle of the two. "Conditioning the elixir by myself," Li Chengsheng answered firmly, "even if it takes decades or even hundreds of years, I will do it myself." "Good. Ambitious. Then you must be prepared to endure loneliness." Li Zhirui was very satisfied with this. As a father, he naturally hoped that his children would be better than him. "When you break through the golden elixir, I will give you a surprise gift." He planned to find a precious fourth-level yin and yang spiritual object as a gift for the brother and sister to form the elixir. At that time, they can use it to directly refine their own life magic weapon. Li Chengsheng was about to speak when a wave of spiritual energy suddenly erupted on Banyan Island. "Is someone breaking through the golden elixir?" Li Zhirui immediately stood up and said, "Let's go and see." "I don't know if it's Li Chenghua or Li Chengwu, but it could be someone else. Li Darren has been in seclusion for many years and may also break through." After a while, Li Zhirui and the others came to the source of the spiritual energy fluctuations. "Is this the cave where Li Chengwu is in seclusion?" This was all applied for by Li Zhirui, so of course he remembered it clearly. "I didn't expect that he would be the first to make a breakthrough." Li Zhirui had been more optimistic about Li Chenghua because he had a solid foundation, but he didn't expect that Li Chengwu would seize the initiative. Chapter 511 Half and Half. Rumble. The calamity cloud quickly formed, occupying several miles in radius, thunder and lightning, looking terrifying. The tribesmen who already had rich experience immediately stayed away from the place where the calamity was passed and watched the thunder calamity from afar. It's a good watch, Li Zhirui said to Li Chengshen. It is not necessary to gain insights from it, but it can familiarize you with the process of thunder calamity. Suddenly, the first thunder of calamity roared down, like the roar of a dragon. The magnificent power made people feel terrified. Some tribesmen with weaker mental states were shocked and collapsed to the ground even more than 10 miles away. As the person who should be calamity, Li Chengwu faced greater pressure. His expression was solemn and he dared not slack off at all. When the thunder of calamity approached, Li Chengwu's mana ran wildly, and his fists burst into dazzling aura, like a blazing fire. In one breath, he threw hundreds of punches. Bang bang bang. A series of explosions sounded, and in the collision of the sky full of fire and thunder, it turned into a little bit of spiritual light, scattered in all directions, and looked particularly gorgeous. I didn't expect Chengwu to combine the mortal martial arts with himself. It looks pretty good. Li Zhirui raised his eyebrows slightly. Perhaps this is why he can surpass Li Chenghu and break through first? Li Chengwu's fighting style is a bit like a branch of physical cultivation, martial arts cultivation. However, the Li family does not have any relevant inheritance. He has achieved the current level with just a few words, which is already very remarkable. From this point of view, Li Chengwu has a very good talent in martial arts cultivation. If the Li family did not have any relevant inheritance, he might have broken through the golden elixir earlier. But there is no way. After all, the Li family has been prosperous for too short a time, and martial arts cultivation is a minor path, and inheritance is rare. And those clansmen who don't know why, just think that Li Chengwu is very powerful, and can actually confront the robbery thunder, their eyes are full of shock and admiration. As the protagonist of this tribulation, Li Chengwu, feeling the rapid recovery of mana in his body, could finally put down his heart. When he first knew the effects of the King pill and Jinsei pill refined by Li Zhirui, he didn't believe it very much, because the description was too exaggerated. King pill can continuously restore mana, allowing people to concentrate on dealing with the first two tribulation thunders, while Jinsei pill can strengthen the virtual pill, making it easier to survive the third and most dangerous tribulation thunder. In other words, as long as there is no problem with one's own state of mind, the danger of the giant thunder tribulation will be greatly reduced. If there is no threshold in front of it, the Li family can give birth to giant monks in batches. The second tribulation thunder fell quickly, and its power was more terrifying than the previous one. The thick thunder seemed to be able to tear the space apart, and it pounced downwards with its fangs and claws. Li Chengwu immediately gathered his mind. Even if he had enough mana in his body and could survive this tribulation, he did not dare to be careless. Mana poured out crazily, thousands of fire fists shot up into the sky, bombarding the thunder continuously. And half of the sky was rendered red. Boom! A huge explosion sounded in the air, which was the last wail of the thunder. It's powerful, but it consumes too much mana, Li Zhirui commented. If it weren't for the King pill to replenish mana, Li Chengwu would have reached his limit by swinging 200 or 300 fire fists. There is only one last thunder? Li King was very nervous. Even though he knew that Li Chengwu had taken the Jinsei pill, he couldn't help but worry. Fortunately, Li Chengwu's foundation was not bad, and the Jinsei pill could strengthen the virtual pill, so he quickly passed this thunder. What followed was the last heart demon tribulation. In Li Chengwu's sea of consciousness, a small crack suddenly appeared, and a black shadow flashed by, but disappeared without a trace in an instant. Humph! Apart from anything else, Li Chengwu's character ranks among the top 10 among many clansmen. You know, his martial arts skills were really honed like ordinary people, training in the hottest days of summer and the coldest days of winter, bit by bit. If you don't have a strong character, how can you keep honing yourself for hundreds of years without interruption? Therefore, the golden elixir heart demon tribulation is nothing to Li Chengwu. The moment the heart demon started to act, Li Chengwu noticed the clues and captured and killed it in an instant. The speed was beyond everyone's expectations. The calamity cloud turned into rolling rich spiritual energy, poured into Li Chengwu's body, solidified the virtual elixir, and turned it into golden elixir. Ha 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 ha! Even Li Zhirui was stunned and laughed. My Li family has another golden elixir real person. Li King was also very happy, and at the same time, he was looking forward to Li Chenghu and Li Darren who were still in seclusion. If they can also break through in the near future, then the Li family can hold the grand elixir formation ceremony. But the development of things is not as good as Li King imagined. Li Chenghu, who was favored by everyone, failed to pass the tribulation. On the 10th day after Li Chengwu passed the tribulation, Li Chenghu also encountered his own golden elixir thunder tribulation. With a stronger foundation and the supplement of Xian King Dan, the 3 tribulation thunders were nothing to him, and he passed through them very easily. But he never expected that Li Chenghu would fall to the inner demon tribulation in the end. He was seduced by the inner demon and fell into the devil. If there was a problem with the first 3 tribulation thunders, the worst thing would be that the meridians would be broken and the foundation would be damaged. Although he might not make any progress in the future, at least he would still be alive. At most, he would fall directly under the tribulation thunder. But in this situation, Li Zhirui had no solution and could only kill him. Li Chenghu's failure to pass the tribulation was also the first case in the development of the Li family so far. It also sounded a wake-up call to Li Zhirui and others. They should not ignore the state of mind of the clan members just because they have a better elixir than the golden elixir. The cultivation of the state of mind is also very important and cannot be neglected. In the months when Li Chenghu fell into the devil, the atmosphere in the Li family was very dull. Even Li Chengwu's Danji ceremony was not properly held, and only some vassal forces were invited to participate. Li Zhirui was not affected at all, but felt pity and regret. If Li Chenghu had been more careful when he was in seclusion, would this bad situation not have happened? During this time, Li Zhirui also thought of a solution. He decided to take out a visualization method he got many years ago and let all the clansmen practice it. Even now, Li Zhirui would take time out every day to practice this visualization method. If his soul was stronger than other cultivators when his cultivation was lower, it was because of the time travel. But now, Li Zhirui's soul is still stronger than the nascent soul cultivators of the same realm, which has a lot to do with this visualization method. However, for people like Li Shiking, the effect is not as good as Li Zhirui's, but he can't say what the specific reason is. Chapter 512, Sitting in Command. The public third-level secret realm in Qingshan province is about to open. What are your plans for this? For this matter, Li Shiking called together Li Zhixuan, Li Chengru, Li Chenglin, Li Chengwu, and Li Darren, who broke through the Jinden a year ago, to discuss the matter together. Li Zhirui was also present, but he just sat aside and listened, and did not intend to express his opinion. At this time, 2 years had passed since Li Chenghu failed to break through the Jinden. His failure at the time dealt a heavy blow to the family. Fortunately, Li Darren successfully broke through, which was inspiring and dispelled the dark clouds that had been hanging over the family. Influenced by this, 2 clan members in the late stage of foundation building began to retreat and try to break through the Jinden, including the previous clan leader Li Dayan. If they can succeed, then the number of Jinden cultivators in the Li family will exceed double digits for the first time. In addition, the overall strength of the family has also made considerable progress in the past 2 years, especially those clan members who came back from Qingshan province, who have basically made some progress. However, Zhang Fengwu and Li Ziyu, who Li Zhirui had been thinking about, still showed no signs of breakthrough, and it was unknown when they would see hope of breakthrough. As long as one of them could succeed, the Li family would not have to worry about the Shenli mountain that was eyeing them covetously. However, Li Xiangxin, the child with his unfanged spirit body that he had been paying attention to, had just completed 3 years of middle school at Linghu Academy not long ago. After he could start formal cultivation, Li Zhirui went to him and asked for his opinion. After 3 years in Linghu Academy, Li Xiangxin naturally knew Li Zhirui's identity. When facing him alone, he was a little nervous, but he did not shrink back. When facing Li Zhirui's questioning, Li Xiangxin also seemed very calm, and asked directly about the advantages and disadvantages of the Wanling Sutra and the Tai's Unfeng Daojing. Although children in the Zuinitan realm are generally precocious, it is still rare to see someone like him, but Li Zhirui is very satisfied with this and thinks he is very good. He patiently points out the differences and advantages and disadvantages of the 2 techniques. I choose Tai's Unfeng Daojing. After careful consideration, Li Xiangxin gave his answer. Although this practice is incomplete, it also has the method of the early stage of the nascent soul, which can fully meet his needs in a short period of time. At most, he can complete it himself in the future. In addition, there are disadvantages such as not being able to enjoy the guidance of the elders and having to explore on his own. But the advantages are also very obvious. First of all, Tai's Unfeng Daojing is the most suitable practice for his spiritual body, and the speed of cultivation is only slightly inferior to that of the Xianlingjin. Secondly, none of his direct elders are cultivators. In other words, if he wants to obtain resources, he can only earn them by himself except for the monthly distribution of the family. As we all know, cultivating spirit beasts is not a cheap thing. And the family can only give him a third-grade spirit beast. Want to contract a fourth-grade spirit beast? Unless you have a father like Li Zhirui, it is almost impossible. For those with lower cultivation or those clansmen who have no ambitions, the third-grade spirit beast can fully meet their requirements, but what Li Zhirui wants is to ascend. Then the third-grade spirit beast is an obstacle for him. After all, it is not an easy task to improve the bloodline grade of a spirit beast. Even Li Zhirui, who has many opportunities, cannot do it easily, let alone others. Li Zhirui did not point fingers at Li Zhirui decision, but directly passed on the key training method to him, and said, if you have any problems in your cultivation in the future, you can go to room 12 of the lecture hall at the time of Chen on the 1st and 15th day of the lunar month. I will teach you there and answer your questions. In the end, only more than 30 young people who came out of the Linghu Academy chose a method other than the Wanling Sutra, most of whom were sword cultivators. However, among these people, except Li Zhirui, the qualifications of others are relatively average, especially those young people who were influenced by Li Zhirui. It is unlikely that they will break through the foundation. Speaking of which, the third-level secret realm that Li Zhirui mentioned is publicly owned, so there is no boundary formation. It will automatically appear every 200 years and allow cultivators to enter. Of course, this so-called allowing is just talk, and in fact, it is still the three major forces of the Lingayan sect that have the final say. From the information obtained from Lingayan sect, this secret realm called Kingmu still has many precious spiritual objects. I think we can go in and train. Li Zhirui, as an elder, was the first to speak. Yes, there are already quite a few giant and cultivators in the family. Once they find each other in the secret realm, they will definitely be a force of considerable strength. People like Li Chenglin, Li Shengwu and others are also very enthusiastic about this secret realm. The main reason is that when they were refining their life magic weapons, they felt that the spiritual objects were not good enough, and they planned to take this opportunity to see if they could get better spiritual objects. Since you are also enthusiastic, I can't refuse. After entering the secret realm, be more careful and go to meet up with the clansmen as soon as possible, Li Zhirui said a lot. But he has always been conservative, but he rarely got radical for once, and actually agreed to let all the giant and clansmen participate in this secret realm. Others may not feel anything, but Li Zhirui felt something was wrong. When everyone was preparing, he asked in confusion, "Second grandfather, why are you willing to let them all enter the secret realm? I'm old and I don't have many years to live, and the family is developing so well. I'm worried that I will accidentally ruin everything, so I want to keep it, but Zhirui and the others are young. There are infinite possibilities. I can't trap them because of my cowardice." Li Zhirui's feelings are actually closely related to the trip to Lingayan sect. The scene of those clansmen breaking through after returning deeply stimulated Li Zhirui and made him constantly reflect on his own actions. So this time, he decided to let go and let them decide for themselves. Li Zhirui was silent, not knowing what to say. Although Li Zhirui had taken the longevity spiritual object, it only gave him an extra 60 years of life, and now he has shown his old age again. "I believe you can lead the family to a bright future." "Yes, I will," Li Zhirui said with great certainty. With him, Li Zhirui, Li Chengshin, Li Zhirui, and so many other clansmen who worked hard to expand the family. How could the Li family not become more prosperous? Time flies in the mountains, and in a blink of an eye, it was the day before the secret realm was opened. The leader of the team this time was still Li Zhirui. After all, this was a third-level secret realm rich in resources. It was hard to guarantee that no one would have evil intentions at that time, so in order to be conservative, a strong person was still needed to take charge. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 513, Bank Run. When Li Zhirui brought Li Zhirui and others to the place where the secret realm appeared, the forces of Shanli Mountain, Shuling sect and others had already arrived. They greeted each other, and then stood still, waiting for the secret realm to open. The giant and monks did not greet each other. After all, They were about to become enemies, so there was no need to waste their thoughts on this. The nobles are so prosperous, which really makes us envious. Yunlei looked at the new faces of the giant and monks behind Li Zhirui, and a dark flash flashed in his eyes, and his tone was full of envy. In just 2 years, there are 2 more giant, which can be compared with him. But you have to know that Shenli Mountain has been passed down for thousands of years, and there has been no Yuanying in the middle of 100 years. I don't know how heavy the foundation is, and there are tens of thousands of disciples. But even so, there are only 1 or 2 people who can break through the giant every year, and sometimes there are none. Looking at the Li family, whether in terms of foundation, number of cultivators, or other aspects, they are far inferior to Shenli Mountain, but in terms of the growth of the golden elixir, they can compete with it. How can people not be on guard? Maybe it was just luck this time, but the speed of the Li family's development is enough to make people unable to ignore it. Yunlei's words instantly attracted the attention of the 2 Yuanying Xianjins from Shulingmen and Wu Aishan. Although they did not look directly at them, their attention was focused on the Li family. After cooperating with the Li family, they certainly had a good understanding of the Li family's situation and knew how strong the Li family was. They didn't care much at first, but Yunlei's words immediately aroused their vigilance. If this continues, the strength of the Li family will surpass them. Dao are joking. It's just a breakthrough in the life and death trials. Li Zhirui laughed softly. Didn't Dao Yun break through to the middle stage of the nascent soul now? With Dao's strength, I believe there should be no opponent in the nearby states. Right, of course, it's not that exaggerated. Xuanbing sect actually has 2 or 3 old monsters in the late stage of the nascent soul. Li Zhirui just exaggerated on purpose to divert everyone's attention. Li Zhirui didn't seem to see Yunlei's not-so-good-looking face, and continued, and Dao Qingli? He hasn't shown up in recent years. He must be practicing in seclusion. It won't be long before he can break through. Right, these words immediately aroused the vigilance of Wuai Mountain. Yunlei, who is in the middle stage of the nascent soul, plus Qingli, have already put a lot of pressure on them. If Qingli also breaks through, it will be difficult for Wuai Mountain to resist the attack of Shenli Mountain. Dao are joking. Junior brother Qingli has been in seclusion for many years because he was seriously injured in the trip to take some secret realm and has been recovering, Yunlei explained with a fake smile. As for whether anyone believes it or not, that's a matter of opinion. But Yunlei, who failed to gain anything, seemed to vent his anger on Li Zhirui, and looked at him with a very cold look. After all, Qinglei's injury was also related to the Li family. If the Li family had not left early, they would not have been beaten by the demon clan without any ability to fight back. Not only did they lose a large number of Jinden disciples, but even Qinglei was seriously injured. Li Zhirui didn't care about it at all. Anyway, the seeds of hatred between the 2 families had been planted long ago, and the various conflicts over the years had already given birth to it, but it was not yet time for tit for tat. Faced with the conflicts between the several Yuanying forces above, the small forces that got the quota were all silent and dared not make any sound. This weird atmosphere lasted for several days until the secret realm was opened, breaking the deadlock. Shenli Mountain is the strongest and should be ranked first. The disciples under fellow Taoist Yunlei should enter the secret realm first, Li Zhirui suddenly said. Of course he knew that he would be hated for making this suggestion, but how could he let go of this rare opportunity? Ho ha, no need to do that, Yunlei laughed and said. It depends on the ability of each disciple. As expected of being trained by the first sect, you have an open mind. Thank you, fellow Taoist Yunlei. Yunlei's eyelids jumped. He never thought that Li Zhirui would have such a skill. The 2 Yuanying Xianjins King Xuanyahei from Shuling sect and Wuai Mountain knew the purpose of the 2 families, but they could not avoid it, especially Wuai Mountain, which had a conflict with Shenli Mountain. There was also a threat from the Li family, but compared to Shenli Mountain, the former could be ignored for the time being. Yunlei wanted to say something, but at this time the secret realm portal opened, interrupting him. One by one, the giant cultivators flew in, and hundreds of people entered the secret realm in just a moment. After a dizzying space shuttle, everyone finally stood on the ground again. Li Zhixuan summoned her natal magic sword immediately, and only then did she have time to look around. Dense forest. Li Zhixuan recalled the map of the secret realm that her family had copied from Lingayan sect, and several place names suddenly came to her mind. She needed to further explore where they were to find out. Then she took out a positioning magic weapon, but unfortunately, there were no other Li family cultivators near her. Li Chengru and Li Chenglin both fell in a desert, and the distance between them was not very far, so they met up immediately. The remaining Li Chengwu and Li Darren, one fell between the mountains, and the other fell by the lake. After some exploration, Li Zhirui determined where she was, the ancient vine forest. This is one of the most dangerous places in the secret realm, but it is also the place with the most spiritual objects. In the list listed by Brother Jiu, many spiritual objects are produced in the ancient vine forest, Li Zhirui muttered to herself, and she was not afraid of this dangerous place. Just as she was carefully checking the map, a thin vine with dense barbs appeared silently behind Li Zhirui. Just when the vine was about to entangle Li Zhirui, she waved her right hand, a flash of cold light flashed, and the vine broke. Too slow. And the movement was too loud, Li Zhirui commented with interest. The reason why the ancient vine forest was rated as the most dangerous area is because there are several third-level vine monsters in this forest. Looking around, all the vines you can see are the clones of these vine monsters. They are everywhere. All over the dense forest. You may not know when you are attacked. Moreover, their vines have all kinds of strange toxins. Some can make giant and monks comatose, some can cause hallucinations, and some can even directly poison giant and monks. It is for this reason that the ancient vine forest is the most dangerous place in the eyes of many monks. But for some monks, this dense forest that few monks enter is a treasure trove. And it just so happens that Li Zhirui belongs to this group. Chapter 514 Secret. Speaking of which, Brother 9 seems to lack the spiritual seeds of high-level vines. I'll take this opportunity to bring some back to Brother 9, Li Zhirui said to himself. In fact, after Li Zhirui broke through the nascent soul, he rarely used vines as a means of attack. The reason is that there are no high-level vines. The spiritual seeds he used before were all cultivated from first-level vines. It was already the limit to reach the third level. It was almost impossible to mutate and break through the fourth level. Against opponents of the same realm, low-level vines are not very useful and can be easily cracked. For low-level cultivators, Li Zhirui has simpler and more convenient means, so the various vine spells he had been performing before became tasteless and a pity to discard. And if these third-level vine monsters in the ancient vine forest are cultivated with their spiritual seeds, after thousands of selections, there is a good chance that fourth-level vine spiritual seeds will be obtained. With the purpose of harvesting spiritual objects and obtaining vine monster spiritual seeds, Li Zhirui began to walk in the dense forest. The entire forest was silent except for the rustling of leaves in the wind. Just walking in it was terrifying. Li Zhirui didn't have such emotions, but she was very cautious. She had now completely put away her contempt and understood why this place was listed as the most dangerous place in the secret realm. Those vines were really hard to guard against. They appeared and disappeared. The last vine might be poisonous, but the next one might explode. Li Zhirui encountered a very dangerous situation. Dozens of vines attacked together, and each one had different abilities. If that was the case, it would not be difficult for Li Zhirui to get out with her own strength, but she never expected that a vine could release a poison gas silently. A very powerful poison gas that ordinary detoxification pills could not solve, which could make the monks weak in the limbs and dizzy in the head. If Li Zhirui had not been sharp enough to notice the changes in her body at the first time, leave the range of the poisonous gas in time, and take the detoxification pill refined by Li Zhirui, she might have been killed there. It was precisely because of this lesson that Li Zhirui put away her contempt and dared not underestimate the vine monsters that dominated here. But it is strange to say that the monsters have a strong sense of territory, especially the plant monsters. In order to obtain enough nutrients, they usually kill all the nearby creatures that compete with them for nutrients and spiritual energy. And the third-level vine monsters in the ancient vine forest, logically speaking, the fight should be more exaggerated, fighting each other to death, and it is impossible for there to be so many third-level vine monsters. But in fact, not only are there no contradictions between them, but they will join forces to deal with outsiders. Let me see what secrets are hidden in the depths of this dense forest. Although Li Zhirui encountered many sneak attacks along the way, he also found many spiritual objects, which can be regarded as a blessing in disguise. Should we go find other people now? Or should we explore this desert first? Li Chenglin asked curiously. Li Chengru shook his head and said, this should be a quicksand desert. There are not many spiritual objects here, There is no need to waste time here. Let's go to Sangsun Mountain now and look for other tribesmen along the way. Sangsun Mountain is very famous in the secret realm because it has very rich spiritual wood resources. It is said that there was once a 5th level golden silk jade spiritual tree. The reason why Li Zhirui chose to go to Sangsun Mountain is because he heard that there might be spiritual fire there, wood fire. If he can get wood fire, then the power of the 9 fires burning heaven pagoda will be further improved. At that time, Li Zhirui may be able to fight against the cultivators in the middle stage of the golden core with the power of his life magic weapon. A slender 3rd level demon snake suddenly jumped out of the desert and pounced on Li Zhirui at lightning speed. Be careful, Li Zhirui didn't expect that they would encounter a 3rd level monster so soon, but he couldn't make a move now, so he could only rely on Li Zhirui himself. Bang! A stone wall appeared in time to protect Li Zhirui and block the attack of the monster snake. Li Zhirui breathed a sigh of relief and immediately summoned the pagoda. A bunch of lung poisonous fire flew out, and in an instant, the monster snake was roasted into a corpse with a faint meaty aroma. Are you okay? Li Zhirui shook his head and said with envy, after the secret realm is over, whether or not I get a 4th level spiritual object, I have to start refining my life magic weapon. If you have any questions about refining, you can come to me at any time, Li Zhirui said with a smile. He was very satisfied with the 9 fire burning heaven pagoda he had refined, and now that he was envied by others, he was naturally even happier. Be careful, although there are not many spiritual objects in the desert, there are many monsters, and they are all hiding underground, Li Zhirui reminded seriously. Brother Zhirui, you said that there are spiritual objects in the desert, but they are not on the ground, but underground? Otherwise, why would so many monsters gather here? Li Zhirui suddenly said. Li Zhirui frowned and thought. This statement is indeed possible, but Li Zhirui is definitely not the only smart person. However, no one has discovered the secret of the desert for so many years. It is definitely not as simple as underground. He expressed his concerns and said, to be on the safe side, let's go to Sangsun Mountain first. If there is no harvest, we can come back and gamble. What do you think? Anyway, this secret realm will be open for 2 months, and they have to find several other tribesmen as soon as possible. How can they find them if they just stay in the desert? As for Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui, their luck was not very good. There were no spiritual objects worth mentioning at the place where they landed, so they could only leave in a hurry, looking for spiritual objects while looking for other tribesmen to join them. But after they left, they soon found a 3rd level spiritual object, but in order to get the spiritual object, they had to defeat the guardian monster. Li Zhirui was fine. His strength was gained by punching one by one. After breaking through the giant, his fighting style also improved a lot. But Li Zhirui was an elder before his breakthrough. He had very little combat experience. He probably only had the meager experience he gained when he went out with a family hunting team a long time ago. Therefore, when he dealt with a 3rd level monster, he was dwarfed and had a hard time. He used several 3rd level talismans to barely injure the monster, and finally let it escape. His performance was very poor, outside the secret realm. After the portal was closed, Li Zhirui turned directly into the spirit ship, and then a thick fog appeared, covering the spirit ship and blocking other people's prying eyes. Then he flashed into the space and began to practice. Chapter 515 Harvest. Yunlei broke through the middle stage of the nascent soul, and Qinglei had not appeared for many years, and his cultivation was unknown. These two things put a lot of pressure on Li Zhirui, so he would race against time to seize the time to practice. In fact, Li Zhirui's cultivation speed is already very fast, but the cultivation of the nascent soul is related to the soul, and there can be no negligence. Moreover, the soul has a carrying limit, so if you want to break through, unless you get some kind of natural treasure to speed up the progress, you can only honestly transform a little bit. According to Li Zhirui's own calculations, if he maintains the current cultivation speed, he will be able to break through in less than 5 years. I just don't know if there is still time for him to develop steadily. Clear the complicated thoughts in your mind and practice quietly. Li Zhirui's words completely pushed Shanlai Mountain to the forefront, causing the vigilance of Wu'ai Mountain and Shulingmen. In a short period of time, it is not easy to take action against the Li family, Yunlei said helplessly. Otherwise, in order to seek self-protection, the two families will definitely put aside their past grudges and unite to fight against Shanlai Mountain. Li Zhirui's guess was not wrong. The reason why Qing Lei did not show up in these years was that he broke through the middle stage of the nascent soul, thinking that when he attacked the Li family, he could take them by surprise and become a secret weapon that determines the outcome of the battlefield. Unfortunately, now is not the time to act. Li Zhirui, holding her life sword, walked carefully in the dense forest. But the next moment, countless vines rose from the ground and swung wildly at her. Li Zhirui was not surprised but happy, and said, "It seems that this is the core of a third-level vine monster." The vines she had dealt with before were just branches, and the damage to the main body was not great, but now it is different. The vines of the main body are like human limbs, which are very important. If injured, the main body of the vine monster will also feel pain. Li Zhirui was not afraid of the menacing vines. She held the sword in her right hand and chopped it down with all her concentration. A sword energy shot out, forcing the vines to be unable to continue the offensive. Then his wrist kept turning, and sword lights followed closely, forming a sword net that directly blocked the falling vines. But the sword light is not only used to intercept attacks, it also has a very powerful attack power. The sharp sword light constantly stimulates the vines. Roar. Accompanied by a painful roar, the vines were retracted one after another. It was this opportunity that allowed Li Zhirui to observe the position of the vine monster. Go! Li Zhirui poured the majestic mana in his body into his life sword, and threw it violently, like a meteor, smashing towards the vine monster. Rumble, a loud sound that shook the earth, stirring up smoke and dust. Unfortunately, when the smoke and dust dissipated, there was only a huge pit on the spot, and there was no wreckage of the vine monster. Escaped. Li Zhirui frowned slightly and said, "It seems that this vine monster has a spell to escape underground. If this is true, then it will not be a simple matter to take it down. Especially for a sword cultivator like Li Zhirui, whose offensive is fierce and sharp, but whose methods are not as varied as those of ordinary cultivators. There is usually only one way to kill a vine monster that can escape from the ground. Force the opponent to have no way to retreat." But Li Zhirui is a little hesitant now. Does she really need to fight a vine monster to death? Isn't her main purpose of entering the secret realm to find spiritual objects? Especially the place where she is now is very dangerous. If she acts so recklessly, she may not get any good. Maybe after finding Chengru, I can bring him in to try, Li Zhirui thought to herself. After all, his pagoda has the effect of suppressing and imprisoning. After thinking about this clearly, Li Zhirui put away the idea of hunting down the vine monster and began to concentrate on collecting spiritual objects in the dense forest. After no longer obsessed with the vine monster, Li Zhirui's harvest instantly became rich. The originally empty jade box is now filled with spiritual objects. Among them, the more precious ones are the third-level green light fruit and the third-level rainbow flower. Both of them are spiritual medicines that can be used to repair the soul. And this is only the result after she selected. For example, some families have spiritual objects that have not yet matured, and Li Zhirui did not collect them. Otherwise, even if she had prepared them before, more than half of the jade box in the storage ring would have been used up. A few days later, Li Zhirui, who was about to leave the dense forest, suddenly found a very obvious trace of a cultivator, and knew that there were other cultivators in the dense forest besides her. I don't know which Taoist friend dared to break into the ancient vine forest. It seems that he is very confident in his own strength. Li Zhirui became a little curious about this person and even wanted to compete with him. However, she has gained a lot now, so it is safer to go to Li Chengru and others first. After Li Zhirui left the dense forest, a giant team ran around excitedly, trying to find a large number of spiritual objects, but found that things were completely different from what they imagined. A cultivator came in advance. Those precious spiritual objects were taken away by the other party, one of them said with a depressed face. The four of them gathered so quickly because they wanted to join forces to enter the dense forest and harvest the rich spiritual objects in it. As a result, someone got there first and only left them with some leftovers. Don't let me know who it is, or I will make him suffer. Although the four were disappointed, they finally came in, so they couldn't go out empty-handed, right? They didn't despise the remaining spiritual objects, and they were like bandits crossing the border, as if they wanted to catch all the spiritual objects in one fell swoop. I don't know who said that the dense forest was extremely dangerous, but what happened? There is no danger at all. I think those who spread this news just want to monopolize this treasure land, a monk said disdainfully. But in fact, It was because the vine monsters were scared by Li Zhirui and could only shrink back and dare not provoke her, but this group of monks did not have the qualifications to let the vine monsters avoid them. Our efficiency in finding spiritual objects together is too slow. Why don't we separate? If the four of them were together, perhaps the vine monsters would have a little difficulty dealing with them, but unfortunately, some idiots were self-righteous and actually proposed to act separately. But this is normal. After all, everyone is greedy and selfish. If they act together, they can't hide the spiritual objects they find. But if they act alone, there is no such problem. Needless to say, their fate is naturally that they became fertilizer for the vine monsters before long. Li Zhirui knew nothing about what happened in the dense forest. After all, when she was there, no vine monster dared to show up. But the reason why Li Zhirui left the dense forest was not only because she harvested too many spiritual objects, but also because when she was exploring the depths of the dense forest, she felt a breath that made her heart palpitate. Chapter 516 Gathering. Is this secret realm so dangerous? Several Jindan disciples died in an instant. Yunlei looked at several life cards that broke almost at the same time, his face gloomy and terrible. The surrounding cultivators lowered their heads and dared not look at him. Or do they think that they are already very powerful after breaking through the Jindan, and there is no need to waste time to polish the Jindan and improve their strength? When Yunlei went to the Taxa secret realm, he vaguely felt that something was wrong. Why did so many of his disciples die in the secret realm? However, he was besieged by the demon tribe and Qinglei was seriously injured. Yunlei put other things behind him and gradually forgot about it. But today, at this moment, what happened in front of him made him remember it instantly. The problem that Yunlei encountered is also what many large forces that have been passed down for many years need to solve. They have long been the overlords of the nearby land. Without the stimulation of the external environment, the internal environment will naturally settle down gradually, and as time goes by, it will gradually become corrupt. But doesn't Shenlai Mountain now have the hostile force of the Li family? But in fact, most of the cultivators in Shenlai Mountain did not think that the Li family was a match for Shenlai Mountain, and did not take the Li family seriously at all. How could they be stimulated? As the supreme elders, Yunlei and Qinglei had been in seclusion long before breaking through the nascent soul stage, ignoring worldly affairs. After the breakthrough, it was even more so. Naturally, they could not understand the true situation of their own disciples. You only have the power of the golden elixir, but you don't have the corresponding strength and realm. Can you still be called a golden elixir cultivator? Anger and disappointment appeared in Yunlei's eyes. If they really took action against the Li family in the near future, judging from the performance of this group of people, it would be extremely difficult to fight. Even if they won in the end, it would be a very tragic victory. After the end of this secret realm, all the golden elixir disciples must improve their strength. If there are those who can't do it, they will stay in the Yinfeng Valley for a few days. Yunlei was really determined this time to make a good rectification. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. The so-called Yinfeng Valley is a treasure land used by the Yinfeng Cave, a demonic force, to practice secret methods. However, for cultivators, it is not a treasure land, but a demon cave that makes life worse than death. A key cultivating cultivator can't stand it after staying in the valley for 3 days. Even a Jindan cultivator can't stay for too long. Once the Yinfeng enters the body, it is very troublesome to get rid of it. Everyone made various promises, hoping that Yunlei could change his mind. Unfortunately, Yunlei had made up his mind. No matter how they promised, he never gave in. "Darren, are you okay?" Li Chengru stared at the ragged man in front of him, who looked like a beggar in the mortal world. If the positioning magic weapon hadn't pointed out that he was Li Darren, he wouldn't dare to speak. At this time, it was only half a month away from the opening of the secret realm. How could Li Darren become like this? "I'm just a little embarrassed, but I'm not injured. Don't worry, Uncle Chengru." Li Darren smiled awkwardly and said, Uncles, do you have extra robes? Can you lend me one?" "Well, didn't you bring an extra set of robes?" Li Darren's face became more and more embarrassed, and he said, "The first 2 sets have been torn into rags. I'm wearing the last set of robes. What on earth have you encountered in the past half-month?" As he spoke, Li Chengru took out a set of robes from the stored ring. "Alice," Li Darren sighed heavily and said with a sad face, "Uncle, you don't know what I encountered." When he first started exploring the secret realm, he encountered a 3rd-level monster. He finally solved it, but after a while, He actually ran into the scene of the destruction of the corpse. The monk chased him for several days and got rid of him with the help of a monster. But the good times didn't last long, or it could be said that misfortunes never come alone. Before Li Zhirui had time to rest, he was targeted by another monk. Another desperate escape, followed by the pursuit of the monster, can be said to be extremely unlucky. After hearing Li Zhirui's experience, Li Zhirui and Li Zhenglin looked at each other in silence. They could only say that with his strength, it was incredible that he could come to them alive in various dangers. But if you say Li Zhirui is unlucky, he happened to get a lot of precious spiritual objects. Now that the three of us have joined forces, you don't have to be afraid of encountering those things again, but now we have to find Chengwu and Zhuanggu. I know which direction Uncle Chengwu is in, Li Zhirui suddenly said. When he was running for his life, he accidentally saw Li Chengwu's positioning magic weapon. He originally wanted to meet him, but when he found the location of Li Chengru and Li Zhenglin, Li Zhirui chose the latter without hesitation. Really? Then let's go, gather everyone as soon as possible, so that it will be more convenient to find spiritual objects at that time. At this time, Li Chengwu, who was being missed by everyone, successfully solved a third-level monster. Leave the storage magic weapon behind before you can leave. When Li Chengru and the other two were on their way, a cultivator suddenly jumped out and shouted angrily. Oh? Fellow Taoist, are you sure? Li Chengru looked at the cultivator in front of him with a smile. If it was not necessary, he did not want to fight with this somewhat weird cultivator. Although the other party's aura was also in the early stage of Jinden, his strength was probably more than that. Haha, the man smiled awkwardly and said, just kidding, fellow Taoist, just go. After that, he disappeared out of thin air. What is amazing is that none of the three Li Chengru noticed what was going on. Sure enough, you can't underestimate any Jinden cultivator, because you don't know what the other party has. Let's go, now we can see where Chengwu is. Li Chengru retracted his fruitless gaze and left the place quickly with the two of them. Huh? Li Chengwu in the distance also immediately discovered the three spiritual lights that suddenly lit up on the positioning magic weapon. It's Chengru, Chenglin, and Darren. Have they found each other? Li Chengwu hurriedly packed up the corpse of the monster and rushed towards them as fast as he could. Both sides were rushing towards each other, and not long after, the four met on the way. Finally found you. These days, I have been searching everywhere by myself. And I don't know how many dangers I have encountered. If it weren't for the third-level talisman given by the family, you probably wouldn't have seen a complete me. Li Chengwu's tone was full of relief. It's okay. Now that the four of us are together, we dare not say that we can travel across the secret realm and no one can defeat us, but at least we have the power to protect ourselves. Li Shanglin smiled and said, but if we can find Zhuanggu, then we really don't have to be afraid at all. Chapter 517, Arson. Get out of here. With a casual sword, Li Zhixun killed a second-level monster that followed. Where did Chengru and the others go? Why haven't any of them been found on the positioning magic weapon so far? Li Zhixun frowned. She has traveled to many places, encountered many monsters and monks, and experienced countless battles, but she has never found any trace of Li Chengru and others from beginning to end. If their life cards were not intact, Li Zhixun would have thought that the four of them had died in a corner of the secret realm. Li Zhixun flipped her hand and took out a map. She took the ancient vine forest as the center, and initially went east, and then turned north. Although she did not go to every corner of the secret realm, except for the south and the land west of the dense forest, the search range of the positioning magic weapon almost covered all places. This occupied more than half of the land of the secret realm, but no trace of Li Chengru and others was found. It can only be said that there was no fate between them, and they just missed each other. Little did she know that Li Chengru and others were also looking for her everywhere. However, since the four of them were in different places at the beginning, they could find out the approximate direction of Li Zhixun by comparing with each other. Brother Chengru, the secret realm is getting more and more dangerous now, Li Chenglin said with a serious face. They encountered several monks fighting along the way. If they were not so numerous and without hostility, they would not have walked so far safely. Especially now that they are close to the center of the secret realm, the land with the richest spiritual energy. The monks here are more and stronger in number and strength than other places. As the strongest and oldest, Li Chengru was naturally the leader of their group before finding Li Zhixun. Let's take a detour from the south. It seems that they have 4 Jinden monks, and their strength is not bad, but except for Li Changru, the other three have not even refined their life magic weapons, and their strength is greatly reduced. This kind of strength may be difficult to encounter opponents in other places, but in the center of the secret realm, where many monks gather, it seems a little not good enough. So for the safety of everyone, Li Changru decided to bypass this place to avoid getting into danger. But sometimes, even if you don't want to cause trouble, trouble will come to you. Just when Li Changru and others were about to leave, 3 Jinden monks from Shanli Mountain took the initiative to approach them. Although they were few in number, they were stronger, with 1 Jinden in the late stage and 2 Jinden in the middle stage. Once the two sides fought, Li Changru and his men had no advantage. The nearby monks, seeing this scene, all showed expressions of gloating and the idea of wanting to reap the benefits of the fishermen. After all, if a fight really broke out, the 4 people of the Li family were certainly not opponents, but they were not easy to take down. Everyone, since you are here, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Among the 3, the youngest-looking Jinden monk Liu Changfang stood in front of them. Li Changru saw that the visitor was not friendly, and secretly sent a message to the other 3 people, asking them to be ready to take action. At the same time, Li Changlan had to activate the spirit ship as soon as possible and retreat to the rear. They came from here, and they knew the environment better, making it easier to get rid of the pursuers. Dao Yao is right, Li Changlu responded with a smile on his face, as if he didn't know their ill intentions. A trace of disdain flashed in the eyes of the 3 people. They believed others so easily. I really don't know how this person grew up in the cruel world of cultivation. But Li Changlu's subsequent actions made the 3 people flustered. A red pagoda appeared in an instant, and then the spiritual light shone brightly, and bursts of earth-lung poisonous fire flew towards the 3 people. Following closely were falling stones and hundreds of exploding vines. Let's go! Li Changlan mobilized all his magic power and activated the speed of the spirit ship to the limit. It was like a meteor passing through everyone's eyes in an instant. When they opened their eyes again, they could only see the halo of the meteor's tail. A bunch of bastards who don't know how to live or die. They just laughed at Li Changlu's stupidity, but they never thought that they were the stupid ones. Especially Liu Changfeng, who had been smooth sailing since he started practicing, and was held up by the entire Shanli Mountain. This was the first time in more than 100 years that he was so embarrassed. I will definitely peel off your skin and tear your tendons, cut your body into pieces, and make you wish you were dead. His handsome face became twisted and hideous. Regardless of the 2 fellow disciples around him, Liu Changfang drove the magic weapon alone to chase after them. His mind was blinded by anger. Although the other 2 were also very angry, they did not lose their minds, but Liu Changfang's solo action forced the 3 to separate. Uncle Cheng Ruo, what should we do now? They will never let us go, Li Daren said fearfully. We can only avoid them temporarily. If we are not strong enough and force them to fight, there will definitely be casualties. As Li Chengruo spoke, he recalled the places where he could hide nearby and said, I remember that there are mountains covered with trees 100 miles to the northwest. Let's hide in them first and see if we can get rid of them. Okay, the spirit boat was moving fast, and the 4 people were very nervous. No one noticed the sudden appearance of a spiritual light on the positioning magic weapon. Sure enough, they are all in the west, and they have found each other. Li Zhixun looked at the changes in the compass and was relieved. But, the spiritual light on the compass moved very fast, definitely not the speed of normal flight. Are they being chased by monks? Or are they in danger? Li Zhixun frowned, not daring to delay on the road any longer, and hurriedly flew towards Li Chengruo and others at his fastest speed. The speed of the spirit boat did not decrease, and Li Chenglan, who was driving the spirit boat, was also rapidly reducing the mana in his body. Cheng Wu, come and replace me. As the 2 of them took turns, they successfully entered the mountains and forests and hid in a cave. But unfortunately, they did not get rid of the 3 people from Shanli Mountain. Humph! Do you think I can't find you if you hide in the forest? Liu Changfang snorted coldly, and cast a spell to summon huge fireballs, throwing them towards the lush vegetation. In an instant, a raging fire burned, and Liu Changfang set off a strong wind. For a time, the wind helped the fire, and the fire spread in all directions. The people who had just used the invisibility talisman and the breath-holding talisman to hide, before they had time to breathe a sigh of relief, discovered the raging mountain fire, which was rapidly advancing towards their location. Damn it! These 3 people are so cruel. Li Zhirui didn't expect that the other party would set fire to the mountain, completely ignoring the many creatures and spiritual objects in the forest, and wanted to force them out. "Uncle, what should we do now?" Li Zhirui asked in panic. He is still young and has hundreds of years to live. He doesn't want to die here. Chapter 518, Repel the Enemy. It's okay. Even if we can't beat them, we can get rid of them. The four of them can take turns to drive the spirit ship, and with the interference of spells, talismans, etc., they can distance themselves from them. And we are hiding in a deep cave. Although we will feel the heat, we should be able to hold on, Li Zhirui said calmly. There are so many caves in the forest. They can't check them one by one. Maybe what Li Zhirui said made sense, and the tense mood of several people relaxed a little. The terrifying flames spread quickly in all directions. In just half an hour, the fire spread across the entire forest. The orange-red color infected half of the sky, and ashes flew all over the sky. It took hundreds and thousands of years to grow a forest, but Liu Chengfeng burned it to ashes in 1 or 2 hours. Humph! Do you think I can't find you if you hide? Liu Chengfeng made a gesture with his hands, and various monsters emerged from the sea of fire. Under his control, they drilled into various hidden places. Li Zhirui and the others had no idea about this. It was not until the spirit fire appeared in front of them that they realized how bad their current situation was. I'm afraid we can't keep it a secret anymore. Li Zhirui sent a message to the three people, arranged what they were to do, and waited for the opportunity to rush out. Wait, Li Zhirui suddenly spoke, interrupting the people who were ready to go, and excitedly picked up the positioning magic weapon and said, "Look, Zhuanggu is rushing towards us. As long as Zhuanggu arrives, we don't have to worry about our safety," Li Zhirui said excitedly. Li Zhirui, who had been crying all the time, also smiled. Although Li Zhirui was only in the middle stage of the golden core, her strength gave them a strong sense of security. Distant water cannot quench nearby fire. Zhuanggu is still far away from us and will not help us in our current predicament. Li Zhirui calmed down and said, "Continue to do what I just said, but the direction of advance must be aimed at Zhuanggu." Okay. After making up his mind, Li Zhirui smashed the fire spirit, and then the four of them rushed out quickly and drove the spirit boat to escape far away. "I found you." Liu Chengfeng chased after them with a grim smile, completely ignoring his two fellow disciples. In fact, they didn't want to continue chasing each other. Instead of wasting time chasing them, they might as well return to the spiritual land and compete with other cultivators for spiritual objects. However, Liu Chengfeng's status in Shanli Mountain was too special. They were worried that he would have an accident. After all, 4 cultivators in the early stage of Jinden could kill a cultivator in the middle stage of Jinden, so they could only hurry to catch up. "You chased me, and each of them was exhausted, just relying on a breath to hold on. We will soon meet up with Zhuanggu, don't give up." However, the meridians of the 4 people could not bear the output of a large amount of mana during the galloping, and they could only fill a part of the spirit stones, but in this way, the speed of the spirit ship inevitably slowed down. The speed of both sides is constantly closing. Liu Chengfeng finally accepted the kindness of the 2 fellow disciples and followed them to hunt down Li Zhirui and others. In order to maintain a good state, Liu Chengfeng actually frantically took out the instant spirit pill and took it. You know, the instant spirit pill that can instantly restore a large amount of mana is a very precious spirit pill that ordinary cultivators can never get. And Liu Chengfeng took it like this and also shared it with 2 fellow disciples. "You all go to hell." Liu Chengfeng, who was used to being spoiled, didn't care about these trivial matters at all, and was thinking about taking down Li Zhirui and others. The terrifying wind and fire sword slashed in the air, and Li Zhirui and others joined forces to barely block it. "Don't bother, leave." "Still want to leave?" "Stay here." 3 powerful spells were thrown at them, but Li Zhirui and his 4 companions could not completely block them. In the end, they were able to survive thanks to the defensive aura of the spirit ship. "Are you all right?" Just as Li Zhirui and his companions were in despair, a cold voice suddenly sounded. "Zhuanggu, you are finally here." Li Zhirui was so excited that he could hardly control himself, and tears actually flowed from his eyes. "Well, leave it to me next." With just one glance, Li Zhirui knew that among the 3 of them, Liu Chengfeng, who had the lowest realm, was the real leader. As long as he was injured, they would take the initiative to retreat. "Are you the famous sword cultivator of the Li family?" Liu Chengfeng's expression became much more solemn after Li Zhirui appeared. Obviously, he felt a lot of pressure from her. My name is Li Zhirui. I have a sword for you to appreciate. Do you dare to accept it? Li Zhirui's calm tone was faintly disdainful. How could the arrogant Liu Chengfeng tolerate this? He immediately said, whatever moves you have, just use them. Then Taoist friend, be careful. Li Zhirui summoned his life sword, raised it to his chest, suddenly opened his eyes, and a cold light burst out. Its momentum was unstoppable, as if it could pierce through everything in the world. This sword is called Immortal Slashing. This sword contained Li Zhirui's full murderous aura. It seemed that countless creatures were screaming at the sky in the sword energy, and even the sky and the earth were eclipsed. Liu Chengfeng, who had originally looked calm, suddenly shrank his pupils, as if he was scared silly, and stood there motionless. Junior brother Liu, hurry up and activate the life-saving spiritual object that Uncle Yanli gave you, the old man in the late Jinden stage hurriedly reminded. Under the sword, even he did not have full confidence that he could survive. At the same time, he shook his head secretly in his heart. With his mentality, he could only cultivate until now because of his aptitude. Want to break through the nascent soul? From his point of view, it is difficult. As for escaping from the sword energy, unless one is proficient in the escape method, ordinary cultivators can't get rid of it at all. Running away randomly will only end in death. Clang. Liu Chengfeng came back to his senses and activated a 4th-level defense talisman in time. The spiritual light fluctuated continuously, which frightened the 3 people in Shanli Mountain. Fortunately, until the sword energy disappeared, it did not break through this barrier. Junior brother Liu, let's go. The old man didn't care too much. He was afraid that Li Zhirui could still cut the second sword, so he hurriedly took Liu Chengfeng away from here. As for the other fellow disciple, he couldn't take care of him anymore. Whether he could escape or not depended on his own ability. Li Zhirui didn't chase him because she was already at her limit. Running at a high speed for thousands of miles had consumed most of her mana. If it weren't for the top-grade Hulang pill refined by Li Zhirui, she probably wouldn't have enough mana to swing that sword. Zhuanggu, you are so amazing. Li Shangwu looked at her with admiration, and so did the other 3. Okay, get out of here quickly. With such a big commotion, maybe some cultivators have already rushed here to take advantage of the opportunity. Chapter 519, Wrath. Junior brother Liu has fallen. On the spirit ship of Shanli Mountain, a cultivator who was in charge of looking after the life tablet ran to the crowd in panic and whispered. That junior brother Liu. Some people didn't react for a moment, but as soon as they said it, they knew who the junior brother Liu was, so much so that they even paused for a few breaths. How is it possible? Junior brother Liu has several life-saving spiritual objects in his hands. How could he fall in the secret realm? Someone said in disbelief. Although everyone was arguing, they suppressed their voices for fear of disturbing Yanli's Henjin, who was practicing in the room. How should I know? But the problem now is that junior brother Liu's life tablet is broken. Everyone should be prepared to face the thunderous wrath of the uncle. He didn't dare to hide anything about such a big thing. He was able to tell everyone before reporting it, which was already a favor to him. You know, Liu Chengfeng has both wind and fire spiritual roots. Not only is his aptitude excellent, but his comprehension is also superior. When he broke through the golden elixir, he realized the wind and fire magical power, and was regarded as the seed of the nascent soul by all the cultivators in Shanli Mountain. Although he was not accepted as a disciple by Yanli, he was just not in the name of master and disciple. In fact, since he entered the sect, he has always been taught by Yanli. Their friendship is no less than that of father and son. Uncle, I have something important to report to you. The cultivator who was guarding the life card knocked on the door tremblingly. Come in. The man trembled all over, as if he had already expected his fate. He walked in with a fearless attitude and said directly, Uncle, junior brother Liu's life card is broken. He didn't dare to say directly that Liu Chengfeng had fallen. What did you say? Yanli opened his eyes suddenly, and the terrifying nascent soul pressure burst out instantly, like a turbulent ocean, stirring up endless waves, intending to swallow the man in front of him. Maybe he really lost his mind, or maybe he was trying to escape. The man actually fainted. Bang! But even so, he still couldn't escape Yunlei's wrath, and was thrown out by the powerful hand. The giant and monks outside all lowered their heads, not even looking at the dead dog-like fellow disciple. How could Fanger die? No matter who did it, I must cut you into pieces, light a lamp with my soul, and torture you. Listen to me." An extremely gloomy voice sounded above everyone's head. "After the secret realm is opened, all of you go in, find the real culprit, and bring him alive to me. If you can't do it, go and keep Fanger company." Yes, how dare everyone have other opinions? They agreed without hesitation, not daring to hesitate at all. After a long time, when they could no longer feel Yunlei's breath, they dared to raise their heads and look at each other, and found that each other's faces were full of bitterness and fear. Catch him alive, and bring him out of the secret realm? If it was some cultivators from small forces, it would be fine. They would not dare to resist. But if it was the disciples of the Li family, Shuling sect or Wu'ai Mountain, would the three Yuanying's Henjin watch their juniors die? And how could the one who could kill Liu Chengfang be from a small force? At that time, they would be ants that could be easily killed by the two Henjins. The movement on Shenlai Mountain instantly attracted the attention of other cultivators, and they all looked over. Is there a disciple who is highly valued who died in the secret realm? This thought came to everyone's mind at the same time, and then they were a little worried. If the death of that disciple was related to their family, then, seeing that Yunlei was so angry, he would definitely not let this matter go easily. Maybe a war would break out. Li Zhirui, who was originally practicing in the space, was also called out by Zhaoqing, who was observing the situation outside and knew about this matter. It should have nothing to do with Zhaoqing and the others. Li Zhirui thought about it and shook his head. Among the 5 clan members who entered the secret realm, only Li Zhaoqing was strong enough, but it was still impossible for her to kill a giant and cultivator who was so valued by Yuanying's Henjin. But for some reason, Li Zhirui always felt uneasy, as if something bad was about to happen. "Zhaoqing, when the secret realm portal is opened, you must tell me as soon as possible, to be on the safe side." Li Zhirui began to pay attention to the news in the secret realm. In case something bad happened, he could react immediately. "I know, don't worry too much." Zhaoqing was worried that Li Zhirui would be restless during his practice, which would cause very serious problems. "Don't worry," Li Zhirui responded and returned to the space. After calming down, he continued to practice, in the secret realm. A quarter of an hour ago. "Junior brother Liu, are you okay?" The old man in the late Jinden stage came up with concern in his eyes and grabbed his right hand. The other cultivator in the middle Jinden stage separated from them when he fled in a hurry. "Thank you for your concern, Senior brother Gu. I'm fine." Liu Chengfang forced a smile, but when he thought of that shocking sword, he couldn't help but feel fear in his heart. He thought he was a child of destiny, but now he understands that he is just a self-righteous frog in the well. In this world, he is nothing. But the next moment, Liu Chengfang couldn't laugh anymore. Shock, disbelief, anger and other expressions alternated. In the end, only unwillingness and confusion remained. He looked up at Gu Huiwei and asked, why? It was Gu Huiwei who took advantage of Liu Chengfang's distraction and pierced his Danshan with a dagger. "Because I don't want to die, I want to continue living." In his excitement, a black gas drilled out of Gu Huiwei's body. Demonic energy. Liu Chengfang's face changed drastically, and he asked with a pale face, "You actually entered the devil's way." Gu Huiwei said disapprovingly, "So what? As long as it can help me break through the nascent soul and keep me alive, what does the devil's way matter? Which demon sect bewitched you? What is the purpose of asking you to do this?" Liu Chengfang could feel the disappearance of vitality, and he didn't want to die unclearly. "I don't know how much effort the Yuan Luo sect put in to take over Qingshan province, but in the end it failed because of the Li family. Of course, this account must be settled. Maybe when Qingshan province was in turmoil, no one thought of the Li family, but after a little investigation, the Li family was revealed." Hearing this, Liu Chengfang understood. "No wonder you kept telling me about the conflict between the Li family and the sect a few days ago. It turned out that you wanted to stir up my dissatisfaction with the Li family, and today, in front of everyone, we hunted down the Li family cultivators, but in the end, I was the one who died." Teacher Yunlei would naturally think that it was the Li family who did it. In anger, he is likely to start a war to avenge me. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 520 Spiritual Root. Shenli Mountain and the Li family have always been full of contradictions, and Liu Chengfang's death will be the fuse that ignites a war. But how can you be sure that the Li family will come to the central region? Liu Chengfang was already on his deathbed, but he still forced himself to ask with his drowsy body. It doesn't matter if the Li family doesn't come, someone from the other two families will always come. Yuan Luo sect wants to retaliate not only against the Li family, but also Shenli Mountain, Shulingmen, and Wuya Mountain. As long as they occupy Qingshan province and destroy their plans, they will not let them go. It will never be what you want. After Liu Chengfang said this, he could no longer hold on. The vitality in his body quickly dissipated, and in a moment, he became a corpse. Liu Chengfang may be proud and arrogant, but he is definitely not a fool. He knows that the demon cultivators have bad intentions and want to provoke a war, and then take advantage of the chaos to seize Qingshan province. And because of his death, Shenli Mountain is destined to be the party that takes the initiative to start a war. No matter the opponent is the Li family, Shulingmen, or Wuyaishan, in the end, even if Xin Lishan wins, there will be a big loss. This is what Liu Chengfang doesn't want to see. It's a pity that he died and was powerless to stop the trend of things, on the other side of the secret realm. Are you alright? Li Zhixun asked. The four shook their heads, and Li Chengru said, It's okay, Zhuanggu, you came in time. We didn't fight with the other party, but the mana consumption was a bit large. Then find a safe place to recover your mana first, and explore the secret realm in a few days. Everyone naturally had no objection and nodded. Soon, the group found a high mountain with relatively thin spiritual energy, and planned to adjust their breath here for a few days. They still had a lot of spiritual pills on them, and they didn't need much spiritual energy. Moreover, the thin spiritual energy also meant that there were no spiritual objects. The cultivators naturally didn't want to come here to explore and would not be disturbed. Time passed in a flash, and it was 3 or 5 days later. The 5 people who had fully recovered gathered together to discuss where to go next. Why don't we go to the center of the secret realm? The spiritual energy there is the most concentrated, and the spiritual objects are the most abundant. With Zhuanggu here, we will definitely gain a lot, Li Chengwu said excitedly. Unfortunately, there was no response from others. Li Zhixun, Li Chengru and Li Chenglin already had places they wanted to go, and didn't want to join in the fun. After all, the center was the most dangerous place, and there was no guarantee that there wouldn't be any accidents. Li Darren was completely scared and didn't want to be hunted down again. As soon as Chenglin and I entered the secret realm, we landed in the desert in the west. I felt that the area was very strange, and there might be some secrets hidden underground, so I wanted to go to the desert, Li Chengru said. Li Zhixun raised his eyebrows and said, The ancient vine forest where I landed is also the same, and there are more spiritual objects, but this time, we are not going in for the spiritual objects, but for the spiritual seeds of those third-level vine monsters. It won't take long, Li Zhixun explained. Ninth brother cultivated various vine spiritual seeds in the past, and many of his moves were also based on vines. But because the spiritual seeds are shallow and can't keep up with his current cultivation, he no longer uses vine spells. Although he has developed a series of other spells, they are not as useful as vine spells. Now it's rare to encounter a third-level vine monster, so naturally we have to help ninth brother get the spiritual seeds. When everyone heard this, they felt that what Li Zhixun was going to do was very meaningful. In addition, they were not far from the ancient vine forest. After completing this matter, they would have enough time to explore the secrets of the desert. The few people moved quickly, and after a few hours, they entered the dense forest. I have searched the dense forest extensively before. Those vine monsters must have remembered my breath. So I can't do anything before I find the body of the vine monster. I can only rely on you. The intelligence of plant monsters is generally low, mainly because they cannot contact living beings that can communicate, and they have always maintained their primitive state. But the vine monsters can easily do such a small thing as holding a grudge against a person. Li Zhixun said some more precautions, and several people nodded, indicating that they had memorized them. As soon as they entered the dense forest, they were warmly welcomed by the vine monsters. Hundreds of vines twitched and whipped frantically. Fortunately, they were well prepared and did not get too embarrassed. And following the vines, they soon reached the body. Li Chenglin and others continued to entangle, while Li Chengruo sacrificed the 9 fires, burning heaven pagoda to freeze the vine monster and prevent it from escaping underground. Miss Zhuan, hurry up, I can only freeze it for 5 breaths, that's enough. Li Zhirui, who had not taken action, instantly turned into a residual shadow and flew out from behind several people. When they reacted, they saw that the vine monster had been trapped by a sword net composed of sword energy. I know you have intelligence, don't play dead. Regardless of whether the vine monster responded or not, Li Zhirui said to herself, I am curious why you vine monsters can coexist peacefully. In the matter of fighting for territory, plant monsters care the most and are the most domineering. There is no room for 2 tigers in one mountain. They will never allow a second monster to be near it unless it can't beat it. But the vine monsters in the dense forest are all about the same strength. Logically speaking, the vine monsters should fight each other desperately, but the results are completely different. As long as you answer me, I will let you go and only take your spiritual seeds, Li Zhirui promised. The vine monster carefully unfolded its body, and a spiritual consciousness of average strength discussed with her intermittently until it got a confirmation again. Because there is a powerful king above us. The king does not allow us to fight each other, it answered Li Zhirui's question. Li Zhirui frowned slightly. Due to the restrictions of the secret realm, it is absolutely impossible for a 4th-level monster to appear. The king it mentioned is at most a 3rd-level perfection, half a step to the 4th level. Of course, this strength can indeed subdue this group of vine monsters and make them obedient. Then why did I turn the dense forest upside down a few days ago? But your king did not appear, because the king needs to protect a treasure and cannot leave. Li Zhirui's eyes lit up when he heard this. Could it be that it is guarding a precious spiritual plant, or a more precious spiritual root? That treasure is similar to us, and it also grows vines, but the spiritual fruit it bears is very strange. How strange it is, it can't describe it, and finally just imitate it with vines. Is this a gourd? Li Zhirui looked at the appearance of the small top and the big bottom, and instantly recognized what it was. There is actually a gourd spiritual root in this dense forest, Li Zhirui exclaimed in disbelief. Li Zhirui was a little worried that Li Zhirui would go deep into the dense forest to get the spiritual root. Chapter 521 Terror. As Li Zhirui worried, Li Zhirui was attracted by the gourd spiritual root. Where is the spiritual root? The vine monster was silent and didn't want to answer. Li Zhirui promised, as long as you take us there, we will let you go after we leave, but if you don't tell me, I will kill you now. Under the combination of kindness and force, the vine monster still spoke and put forward a condition that it could not show up in front of the king. Okay, Li Zhirui glanced at it lightly. How could this appearance of knowing how to protect oneself be stupid? Seeing this, Li Zhirui quickly stood up and said, Zhuanggu, isn't this too risky? Who can guarantee that what it said is true? If it is a trap, it is too dangerous. Your worries are not unreasonable, but don't worry, nothing will happen. How could Li Zhirui, who has been training outside for many years, not know the potential danger? If she was alone, Li Zhirui was confident that with her own strength, even if she could not kill the 3rd-level monster who did not know the depth, but if she wanted to leave, the other party would not be able to stop her. Although there are still Li Zhirui and others, Li Zhirui also has the 4th-level talisman given by Li Zhirui, as well as other life-saving methods, which are enough to ensure the safety of everyone. Seeing Li Zhirui's confident look, Li Zhirui couldn't say anything else, and could only hope that what she said was true. With the local natives leading the way, Li Zhirui and his party came to the most secluded place in the dense forest very smoothly. If they were allowed to come in by themselves, they would probably get lost in the dense forest. Before stepping into it, just at the edge of the area, they could feel the extremely rich spiritual energy, which was definitely not worse than the spiritual cave of the 4th-level spiritual vein. In the 3rd-level secret realm, it can be said that such a spiritual land can appear, which can be said to be rare in the world. I don't know if this underground is the intersection of several spiritual veins, or there is a huge spiritual stone mine, Li Zhirui guessed. But unfortunately, no matter which one it is, it has nothing to do with them. It's not just because of the secret realm, but also because they are too few in number and can't take away many spiritual stones. As for the spiritual vein, that's even more impossible, unless Li Zhirui has mastered some kind of magical power that can extract the spirit veins from underground. We're here, you guys quickly take me away, don't let the king find out. Li Zhirui casually threw it to Li Zhirui. They all had empty spirit beast bags. I'll go in first, you guys just guard outside, Li Zhirui said, suppressing the uneasiness in her heart. She has confirmed that the source of the danger she felt at the beginning isn't here. If it was in the outside world, Li Zhirui might not dare to take the risk, because it is very likely to be a 4th level monster. But this is in the secret realm. Restricted by the rules, it is absolutely impossible for a 4th level creature to appear. Even if the monster inside is powerful, she can come out alive with a spirit in her hand. Zhuanggu, why don't we forget it? When the secret realm opens next time, we will be fully prepared and find a way to get the gourd spirit root. Li Zhirui said a little uneasily. Anyway, the spiritual root has been in the secret realm for so many years and no one has obtained it. It is thought that it has not been discovered by the cultivators. After waiting for 100 years, the next time the Jindan people enter the secret realm, not only will there be more of them, but they will also be stronger, making it easier to get the spiritual root. I'll go in and find out the situation first. Don't worry, there will be no danger. However, Li Zhirui still asked them to prepare to escape from this place in time. After that, without waiting for their answer, Li Zhirui walked straight in, pasted a breath-retaining talisman, and walked carefully towards the place where the spiritual root was. Not long after, Li Zhirui saw a green gourd vine with several small gourds of different colors hanging on it. Not far away from it was the monster guarding this spiritual root. A huge, black, 3rd-level peak thorn monster that looked like steel and poisoned. Those thick wooden thorns made people feel terrified at a glance. Li Zhirui paused silently for a few breaths, not daring to reveal a trace of her breath, and then decisively turned around and left. Although she wanted to get that spiritual root very much, Li Zhirui had enough understanding of her own strength, and she was no match for the thorn monster. And what Li Zhirui gave her were 2 unused 4th-level talismans, which could block it for a moment, but there was almost no hope of killing it. What's more, there are still many 3rd-level vine monsters in the dense forest. With their current manpower and strength, they are likely to be wiped out. Li Zhirui and others stood outside anxiously, fearing that Li Zhirui would have a conflict with a monster. Fortunately, this did not happen. A moment later, Li Zhirui drove the spirit ship and flew directly out of the dense forest. The moment they left, the thorn monster was awakened. Hundreds of huge vines soared into the sky, like twisted monsters, attacking Li Zhirui and others at a very fast speed, trying to cut the entire spirit ship into pieces. Li Zhirui and Li Zhirui stood out with solemn expressions. The former's sword light was like rain, trying to cut off the vines, and the latter's spiritual fire was like a cannon, constantly bombarding downwards. But these vines seemed to be made of gold and stone. The two tried their best, but they could only deal with 30% of the vines. The remaining 70% of the vines attacked them relentlessly, and even because of the pain caused by the thorns, the monster increased its speed in anger. Li Zhirui frantically mobilized his magic power to keep the speed of the spirit ship at the limit, constantly climbing upwards, and narrowly avoided the siege of the vines. That is, the length of the vines is limited, otherwise it would not be so easy for them to escape. It was a close call. Li Zhirui collapsed on the board, looking like he had lost all hope in life. If he had known that the secret realm was so dangerous, he should not have come. Li Zhirui regretted it very much. Li Zhirui, who was controlling the spirit ship, looked like he was exhausted. If Li Zhirui had not supported him in time, he would have fallen straight on the board. Li Zhirui did not rest, and said directly to everyone, "It's my problem. I underestimated the monster and overestimated my own strength. If she hadn't insisted on doing it her own way, they wouldn't have fallen into such a dangerous situation. Fortunately, everyone escaped safely, otherwise Li Zhirui would really be too ashamed to go back to the family to see people. You know, what is here is the result of the Li family's decades of development. It's okay, aren't we all fine?" Li Zhirui said quickly. Li Zhirui shook his head and said nothing. He turned and looked at the dense forest, muttering to himself, "In 100 years, I will kill you." After saying this, Li Zhirui's whole aura changed. He used to be so aggressive, but now he has become a lot more restrained, but he gives people a more dangerous feeling. Chapter 522 Inheritance. Let's go to the desert you mentioned next. Thank you for your hard work. After that, Li Zhirui turned and walked into the cabin. What's happening to Zhuanggu? Li Zhirui, who was driving the spiritual ship, asked in confusion. Li Zhirui shook his head, signaling him not to ask too much and to concentrate on the journey. He thought to himself, perhaps, this encounter is also a good thing for Zhuanggu, although he didn't understand sword cultivation. Just looking at the momentum, the current Li Zhirui is more terrifying and dangerous than before. The ancient vine forest is far away from the desert, and the group flew for most of the day before reaching the destination. Zhuanggu, we're in the desert. Li Zhirui, who was resting with her eyes closed, opened her eyes instantly and replied softly, I know, I'll be there soon. When she stood on the deck, overlooking the endless desert below, she couldn't help but doubt Li Chengru's guess. If there was really a secret underground, the spiritual energy would not be so thin. After all, spiritual energy is the foundation. Brother Chengru, isn't your guess too unreliable? Li Chengru said bluntly, it's impossible for this desert to have any secrets. I think the monsters you encountered before either ran in from other places, or they were weak and hid here to avoid danger. This, Li Chengru didn't know how to explain for a while. Li Chenglin on the side said, we have checked it specifically, and those monsters all came out from deep underground. If they were not sure how dangerous it was below, the two would have widened the cave and went in to find out. If you don't believe it, we will kill a monster later, and you can near it. You will definitely be able to dig out a bottomless cave. Okay. Having said that, Li Chengwu couldn't say anything else. After a while, Li Zhirui was put down on the spirit ship as bait, and the others restrained their breath and waited for an opportunity to move. Li Zhirui was reluctant at first. After all, baiting was too dangerous. If he was not careful, he would get hurt. But there was no other way. He was the youngest. If he didn't act as bait, could the elder view it? Before long, a huge black striped rat demon with satin fur rushed out from the ground, baring its huge fangs and biting towards Li Zhirui. Help! Li Zhirui was startled and ran away without thinking. Li Zhirui frowned when she saw him behave like this. Although she knew that Li Zhirui was timid before, she didn't expect him to be so unbearable that he couldn't even take out basic measures such as emergency defense. What's the use of such a giant and cultivator? Li Zhirui fell into deep thought. Seeing this, Li Chengru immediately sacrificed the 9 fires burning heaven pagoda. A powerful confinement force broke out, forcibly fixing the black rat demon, and then killed it. It's okay. Don't run around. It will attract other monsters. After returning to the spirit ship, Li Zhirui had a face full of complaints, but because everyone was his elder, he couldn't say anything. Let's go and see where the rat demon appeared. Soon, everyone found a 2-foot wide hole with various footprints at the entrance and exit. It can be seen that this was not the passage dug by the rat demon. How is it? Our guess still makes sense, right? Go in and take a look. Li Zhirui didn't feel any danger, so he took the lead and walked into the cave. Empty. This was Li Zhirui's first feeling. The size of the passage was several times that of the entrance and exit, but except for Li Zhirui and others who had just entered, there was no other life as far as the eye could see. And now, everyone was faced with the question of whether to continue to go deeper. Let's go in and take a look. Li Zhirui on the side actually agreed. What the ant said is right. Maybe there are very precious treasures in it. Li Chenglin looked at Li Zhirui thoughtfully. He was really unlucky, but he was also lucky, otherwise he would not have obtained those precious spiritual objects. Then go a little deeper. Li Zhirui led everyone and slowly moved forward bit by bit. After walking for an unknown period of time, everyone finally came to a dilapidated and macy hall. In addition, there were caves one after another. Is this the end? No one could answer Li Chengwu's question for the time being. However, several people have begun to explore the nearby caves to see if they can get anything. Unlike the others, Li Zhirui did not hold too much hope. After all, such an obvious underground passage must have been discovered by the monks after so many years. And in fact, it was true. After searching once, everyone did not get anything at all. But there was a little surprise. Li Zhirui actually found something. Where did you find this? Li Zhirui looked at Li Zhirui with a sharp eye, and suddenly felt that he was not useless. There, Li Zhirui pointed and said, this jade slip was hidden in the mountain wall. I accidentally tripped and bumped into the mountain wall, which squeezed the jade slip out. Everyone was stunned by these words. If they didn't know Li Zhirui's character and his movements just now, they would never believe it. This time it's not a complete loss. Li Zhirui held the jade slip tightly, and had no intention of returning it to Li Zhirui. It's not that she coveted this jade slip, but the content recorded in it is very important and precious. The jade slip is made of the best jade material, so it can record a lot of content. And a large part of the jade slip is about a top force called Mingdao sect. According to the records, Mingdao sect once had several ancestors who ascended to heaven, 2-digit ancestors who were transformed into gods, dozens of Yuanying, and hundreds of Jinden. This kind of strength, put in today's time, can definitely become one of the leaders of the central region. But such a powerful sect suddenly fell apart, and the Tongshan building collapsed. As for the reason, there is no record in the Jade Slip. Apart from the history of Mindao sect, which occupies an absolute amount of space, the remaining is a technique that leads directly to the realm of refining emptiness, called Taming Dao 1 chapter. It looks very mysterious, and is definitely a top-level technique, no worse than the Li family's Wanling Jing. There are more than a dozen magical powers, namely the 5-element Spirit Lotus, the 5-elements Escape Method, the 5-element Spirit Light, the 5 elements Treasure Flame, the Sun God Light, the Moon God Light, etc., all of which are magical powers such as Yin and Yang and the 5 elements. Finally, there are the methods of cultivation skills such as pill prescriptions and talismans, which are scattered and very messy, but the grades are not low, at least they are all 3rd grade, including the 3rd grade Binxin pill, the 4th grade Jinsahong talisman, the 4th grade Dundee talisman, and the 2 kinds of barrier-breaking elixirs, the foundation building pill and the golden pill. It can be said that the value of this Jade Slip alone is no less than the accumulation of the Li family for so many years. Chapter 523 Planning. Darren, this Jade Slip is your chance. I will explain the situation to Brother 9 after we return to Wangxin Island, but before that, let me keep it. What do you think? Li Zhixuan said solemnly. How can it be counted only to me? This is a treasure that we all got together, Li Darren said hurriedly. Although all the credit is attributed to him alone, and he will get a lot of contribution points, others will inevitably feel a little dissatisfied. There is no need to hurt each other's feelings for these. On the contrary, if he generously gives it up now, he can also get the gratitude of others. If someone breaks through the nascent soul in the future, this friendship will be more precious than those contribution points. If it weren't for the elders, I wouldn't be able to come in. This is the credit of all of us. Seeing this, Li Zhixuan stopped persuading him, nodded, and said, in this case, you will take 50%, and the rest will be divided equally among the 4 of us. What do you think? Li Chengru and others declined for a while, and then agreed. Look for it again. If you really can't find the reason why the monsters live underground, then let's go. Li Zhixuan was very satisfied with the inheritance Jade Slip. If nothing unexpected happens, this is the most precious harvest of this trip to the secret realm. After a while, Li Chenglin made a new discovery. A tunnel leading to deeper underground. If you experience it carefully, you can also feel the spiritual energy emanating from it. The end should be a place with rich spiritual energy. Li Zhixuan frowned and thought for a while, and said, let's explore it here, because I don't know how dangerous it is inside. If I really encounter any danger, this long and narrow tunnel can't even use the spirit ship, and I can't escape. Next time, I can bring some puppets in advance and let them explore the situation first, and then decide whether to go deeper. The main reason is that my strength is too poor, and I didn't expect that there are so many secrets hidden in this secret realm that has been open for many years. I didn't make any preparations and just came in directly. Let's go back first. Everyone nodded and walked out of the tunnel quickly. Aunt Zhuan, what are we going to do next? Li Zhixuan thought for a moment and said, there is still some time before the secret realm portal opens. We can take a stroll and record the changes in the secret realm to lay a good foundation for the tribesmen who come in next time. With the inheritance Jade Slip in hand, Li Zhixuan became conservative and unwilling to take risks. She only wanted to take everyone away safely and hand the Jade Slip to Li Zhirui. The group was traveling in the secret realm, but other cultivators started a brutal fight, competing for the spiritual objects in each other's hands. If they were not so numerous, it would not be so peaceful. Time passed day by day, and finally the day when the secret realm portal opened arrived. Outside the secret realm, the other forces saw more than a dozen giant and cultivators from Shanli Mountain, all crowded in front of the portal, and their faces became very ugly. Are you trying to control the portal and prevent others from coming out? A giant and cultivator under the command of Shulingman shouted. What? Do you have any opinions? Yunlei walked out with a gloomy face and a low aura around him. The golden elixir turned pale and dared not speak again. Why are you so angry? Fellow Taoist? This young man is just worried about those disciples. King Shu Zhenjin walked out with a smile on his face. Seeing this, Yahei Zhenjin also showed up and asked, Fellow Taoist, you are so angry, I wonder what happened? If there is anything we can help, just speak up. Yes, if there is any problem, we can solve it together. There is no need to make such a big fuss. But it's just Shanli Mountain. Others can't make such a scene. Li Zhirui, who received Zhao Qing's notice, instantly stopped his power and came out of the space. Just in time, he interrupted and said something. A Yuanying seed of my Shanli mountain fell in the secret realm. Yun Li swept his eyes over everyone, but seemed to accidentally stay on Li Zhirui for a breath, and said, no matter who he is, my Shanli mountain will never let him go easily. Yuanying seed. Everyone immediately understood why Yun Li was so angry a few days ago. It turned out to be because of this. Since your sect is so optimistic about that junior, why did he die in the third-level secret realm? I'm afraid that other cultivators can't threaten his life, Li Zhirui said faintly. Is it possible that one of his close fellow disciples took advantage of his unpreparedness and attacked him? Li Zhirui was not sure whether Yun Li's words were true or false. Maybe the other party just found an excuse to attack a certain force. If it is really as he guessed, then the Li family will be the most dangerous. Attacking the Li family is more convenient than attacking the other two major forces, at least the distance is very close. Yun Li didn't care about what Li Zhirui said. It has been so many days since the incident happened. Even if he is angry, this anger has subsided a lot. Now this look is half pretended for outsiders to see. And as Li Zhirui said, with the strength of the cultivators in the secret realm, it is almost impossible to kill Liu Chengfen. But he is indeed dead now, so the biggest possibility is what Li Zhirui said, that it was a disciple of Shanli Mountain who did it. Yun Li actually thought of all these. But now he pretends not to know. The purpose is to make a fuss about this matter. Attack the Li family. Although this matter seems a little weird, there are other forces handwriting and calculations in it, but after thinking about it, Yun Li decided to bite the hook. The speed of the Li family's development is too fast and too amazing. Yun Li is worried that if it continues like this, the Li family will give birth to the second Yuanying Zhenjin in a short time. By then, although Shanli Mountain still has the upper hand, the gap in strength between the two sides is not that big. By then, the Li family can completely retreat to Banyan Island and entangle with Shanli Mountain for many years. If they want to destroy the Li family, the price they pay will be more severe than now. Of course, Shulingman and Wu Aishan will definitely take this opportunity to take advantage of the fire. But even if they pay these prices, as long as they can destroy the Li family, they will always find a chance to take it back in the future. After all, they are not like the Li family, whose fortune is in the ascendant and their development speed is amazing. Moreover, Li Zhirui is away now. Even if he rushes back after the secret realm ends, the Li family will not have time to make more preparations. If it weren't for the fact that all parties are watching their every move, Yun Li would have sent people back to Shanli Mountain and let Qing Lei lead the disciples to attack the Li family. Humph! Yun Li snorted coldly and said, Dao, don't try to sow discord here. Cheng Feng does have many ways to save his life, but if he takes turns to play, there will always be a time when he will be exhausted. Chapter 524 Abandonment. When Li Zhirui heard this, his heart sank. Things might really be going in the worst direction. Since you insist on doing this, we can't stop you, but I hope you won't block the exit of the gate and prevent innocent people from coming out. Li Zhirui turned to Shuking and Yang He, the two true lords, and said, we will also send a few disciples in to watch the gate. What do you think? The two families, who were obviously a little contradictory, looked at each other tacitly at this moment and said, that's good. In fact, it is not difficult to see that the two families are fighting with this matter, and they also want to stay out of it and not get involved, but they still have many disciples in the secret realm. If they really can't get out, then their losses will be too great. Zhaoqing, Hu Gan, you go into the secret realm. While speaking, he also secretly transmitted the voice. After entering, Zhaoqing, you immediately activate the one Li communication talisman in your hand and tell them to come out immediately and don't stay in the secret realm. This time Li Zhirui really spent a lot of money. The value of a one Li communication talisman is as high as 100,000 or 200,000 spirit stones. I know, don't worry, after we go in, remember to contact decking with a secret method. Li Zhirui nodded imperceptibly. The secret method Zhaoqing mentioned is a spell in the Oneling Sutra. No matter how far apart they are, they can contact each other through a wisp of soul of the contracted spirit beast left in the cultivator's sea of consciousness. But the restrictions are relatively large. Only one party can perform it after breaking through the nascent soul. And now, only Li Zhirui meets the conditions, and it is his first time to perform it, so outsiders don't know at all. When Yun Li saw Hu Gan show up, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. He had always suspected that Li Zhirui was hiding a contracted spirit beast, and now he finally saw it. And Li Zhirui's proposal, after getting the support of King Shu and Yahe, the two true lords, didn't need to care about Yan Li's opinion at all. Therefore, at the moment the secret portal was opened, another 20 or 30 giant and cultivators walked in. After watching Zhao King and Hu Gan disappear, Li Zhirui turned back to the spirit ship with an expressionless face. This time, the Li family is doomed to be unable to escape. Yun Lei's eyes were filled with various emotions. After releasing the obscuring fog, Li Zhirui began to perform a secret method to pass the message to Da Qing, who was thousands of miles away, through his soul. Is there something urgent? Da Qing was instantly awakened by the movement from his soul. When he saw the message sent back by Li Zhirui, he stood up suddenly and ran towards Li Shiking's cave residence at the fastest speed. Knock knock knock, the rapid knocking on the door made Li Shiking feel a little flustered and uneasy for no reason. Da Qing, when he saw who was standing outside the door, the uneasy emotion was instantly magnified several times. Did something big happen to Zhirui? There was only one possibility. Yes, Da Qing briefly explained what happened to Li Zhirui. Zhirui suspected that Yun Lei wanted to take the opportunity to attack the family, so I reminded you to abandon the family's territory outside immediately, and all the clan members returned to Wangxin Island to survive this crisis. Li Shiking was stunned when he heard this. These are the territories that the Li family had obtained with great difficulty. Now, because of Li Zhirui's speculation, they are directly abandoned. How can Li Shiking make this decision? Da Qing didn't say much. He had said everything he should say. Whatever decision Li Shiking made was his decision. After a moment of hesitation, Li Shiking finally decided to listen to Li Zhirui, because the Li family dared not gamble on such things, and could not gamble. Once they lost, the Li family would sacrifice a large number of young and strong people. You know, the tribesmen who can leave Wangxin Island and go to other places to garrison are either in the middle stage of key training or adults. Most of them are young and strong people. If they die, the future of the Li family will be vacant for decades. I will inform Zhu Fang now and ask him to inform all the clansmen to return to Wangxin Island within 3 days and plunder all the spiritual objects in the spiritual land. Li Shiking looked at Da Qing and asked, did Zhirui ask you to say anything else? Just let everyone prepare for the battle, nothing else. Okay, you go back first. Li Zufang was also confused by Li Shiking's order. He even suspected that he was possessed by someone. After all, it was too sudden and the abandoned territory was too large. For this reason, he made a special trip to verify the authenticity. After knowing the reason, although he still felt that it was a bit of an exaggeration, he honestly followed the order and notified all the clansmen to return to the family within 3 days, otherwise they would be expelled from the family. This strange order made all the clansmen unable to understand. But the harsh wording made them dare not ignore it. One by one, the clansmen dug back the spiritual objects in their spiritual land and planted them on the vacant spiritual fields on Wangxin Island. Next, we will wait for Zhirui and others to come back and see the reaction of Shanli Mountain, in the secret realm. As soon as everyone came in, the giant and monks of Shanli Mountain, except for a few people who stayed to guard the gate, all dispersed to look for the fellow disciples who came in before. Zhao King planned to activate the One Li communication talisman, but found that Li Zhixun and others were nearby. According to the positioning compass, the distance between the few people and the gate was less than 1,000 miles. It saved Zhirui a precious talisman. Zhao King whispered to herself, I hope someone of them will see the changes on the magic weapon and fly to the gate as fast as possible. Huh? Why did the positioning magic weapon suddenly have an extra spiritual light? The careful Li Changlin suddenly found that there was an extra spiritual light on the magic weapon not far away. Li Zhixun frowned and said, hurry up as fast as possible, I'm afraid something happened in the outside world. Okay, Li Changlin and others also thought of this. The originally joyful atmosphere suddenly became silent, and they were completely out of the mood to talk and laugh. With a spirit ship running at full speed, they arrived at the gate in about half an hour. Zhao King? How did you get in? Did something happen to the family? Li Zhixun couldn't wait to ask through voice transmission before she got off the spirit ship. Not yet, but it's very likely to happen, so Zhirui asked me to come in and take you out immediately and return to Wangxin Island. Hearing this, Li Zhixun and the others didn't dare to delay any longer and hurriedly said, then let's go quickly. The other cultivators saw Zhao King and the others were about to leave, and hurriedly said, Dao Iao, Are you planning to leave now? Yes, something happened in the family, and we are in a hurry to get on the road, so we won't accompany you. At the end, Zhaoqing remembered a sentence that Li Zhirui wanted him to say. Dao, remember these 4 words, lips cold teeth die? Everyone was not stupid. How could they not hear such obvious words? Chapter 525 Betrayal. Although they were all elders of their respective sects, it was not their turn to make decisions on such a major matter, so they could only pretend not to understand and act as if nothing had happened. Zhaoqing did not care about their reactions. After saying this, she led Li Zhixun and others out of the secret realm. After telling Daking about his bad guess through secret methods, Li Zhirui waited for Zhaoqing and others to come out on the boat deck. When he saw them coming out, he immediately took action to bring them back to the spirit ship. The other cultivators were a little surprised. Did they bring people out so quickly? It was less than an hour. Since all the cultivators of my Li family have come out, we will not stay here. Li Zhirui's voice came through the thick fog. Everyone, family affairs are busy. I will leave first, fellow Taoist Li. Please stay. Yunlei hurriedly stopped him and said, the murderer of Chengfang has not been identified yet. The culprit is very likely among them, so please wait for a moment, fellow Taoist. Oh, Li Zhirui exclaimed in surprise and chuckled, fellow Taoist, are you suspicious of the cultivators of my Li family? If I remember correctly, the nascent soul seed you mentioned has the cultivation level of the middle stage of the golden core. Suddenly, he changed the subject, his tone full of sarcasm and ridicule, and said, if he has a lot of means to save his life, but was killed by Zhixun and several cultivators in the early stage of the golden core, and some of them haven't even refined their own magic weapons, it really makes people feel that the nascent soul seeds of Shanli Mountain are too unbearable. How can they be responsible for anything? Yunlei was about to reveal his true intentions, so Li Zhirui was too lazy to play along with him and just went straight to the point. Please be careful with your words, fellow Taoist, Yunlei said with an unpleasant expression. Tisk. Li Zhirui smacked his lips softly and replied perfunctorily, I know. So fellow Taoist Yunlei, can we leave now, or do you still insist that your nascent soul seed died at the hands of a few newly promoted golden cores? If he continued to stop them from leaving, it would be equivalent to indirectly admitting what Li Zhirui said. If it got out, it would have a significant impact on Shanli Mountain. But Yunlei was unwilling to let them go. After all, Li Zhirui might have guessed his purpose now, and he would definitely start preparing as soon as he returned. But on second thought, even if he guessed it, what would happen? Going back a day or two earlier would not do anything, and it might even put the Li family in a panic. Fellow Taoist, please do as you please. Li Zhirui said nothing and directly drove the spirit ship towards Banyan Island. On the spirit ship. Brother Jiu, did something happen during this period? Li Zhixun asked in confusion. Li Zhirui raised his eyebrows and said lightly, there is a nascent soul seed in Shanli Mountain, which fell in the secret realm. But now, Yunlei no longer cares about this. He is very likely to take this opportunity to attack the family. Speaking of which, have you met Liu Chengfang in the secret realm? Yes, he started chasing us as soon as he saw us. Fortunately, we were lucky. Finally, Zhuanggu arrived in time and repelled them. Repelled? It seems that the murderer is someone else, but now, the truth is no longer important. At this time, the atmosphere on the spirit ship became very depressing. When everyone thought that Shanli Mountain was going to attack the family, a huge pressure suddenly came over them. Tell me about your gains in the secret realm. Li Zhirui saw this and immediately changed the subject. When talking about the gains in the secret realm, everyone's faces looked much better. Li Zhirui accidentally discovered a jade slip of inheritance. It contains a lot of content that can instantly enhance the family's foundation. Li Zhirui hurriedly said after hearing this, this is everyone's work, not my own. Oh? Is it so precious? Li Zhirui looked at Li Zhirui and joked, if it is really as precious as Zhixun said, then you will get an extremely rich contribution value. Are you willing to share it with them? This is what everyone deserves. How can we be reluctant to give it up? Li Zhirui took the jade slip at this time and was immersed in it at a glance. He did not respond to Li Zhirui, but a trace of satisfaction flashed in his eyes. After a moment, Li Zhirui's expression became particularly solemn and said, it is indeed worthy of Zhixun's words. If it were not for the fact that he was on the spirit ship and the family was about to face a crisis, he would not be willing to withdraw from the jade slip. It is no exaggeration to say that if the Li family could have obtained this jade slip 10 years earlier, there would be at least several more giant cultivators now. This achievement can no longer be measured by contribution points. I will discuss the specific reward measures with my second grandfather after this matter is over. Li Zhirui looked at Li Zhirui and said, "Don't worry, I will never let you down. This is what I should do. Although you are very conscious, there are still rewards to be given. Otherwise, when other members of the clan get opportunities in the future, how can they hand them over to the family?" Time passed quickly on the way, and before they knew it, they had returned to Banyan Island. "You should go back and take a good rest first. If a war really breaks out, you will be the main force against it." After saying that, Li Zhirui strode away. He also had to seize the time and make some preparations, in a restaurant in Hongluozhou. What happened to the Li family? When I passed by yesterday, I found that Bailu Mountain was empty. Not only could I not see any people, but there was not even anything valuable. A cultivator was talking about his latest discovery with his companions. Could it be that the true Lord is fallen? Otherwise, why would he abandon that third-level spiritual vein? He must have felt that he couldn't hold it anymore, so he just gave it up. That makes some sense, but this kind of talk is still a bit taboo. Don't say it to outsiders. Okay, let's drink. What do the affairs of the sects and families have to do with us, the low-level casual cultivators? But this movement still attracted the attention of a certain force. Zishianayu, who was chosen by Li Zhirui to be the experimenter of Xian King Dan and Jinzi Dan, and finally successfully formed a pill, had many speculations in his mind when he heard that the Li family cultivators had completely withdrawn from Hongluozhou. Among them, he felt that the most likely one should be the conflict between the Li family and Shanli Mountain, because something could not be reconciled and was about to break out. And judging from the series of actions of the Li family, they did not have much confidence in this war. As the founder of Xianluo sect, he must consider himself. After all, as the first vassal force of the Li family, Shanli Mountain would definitely not let Xianluo sect go. Even though the Li family has done him a favor, his life is the most important thing in the world. In order to save his life, he can do anything. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.